Chapter 323. Huilan, since your father doesn't like me, I'll take you away from this old Gao village. This world is so big, so there's definitely a place for us to stay. The pig demon's furious gaze swept across the crowd. Then, it looked at the graceful woman with love in its eyes. No, you're not a human, you're a pig demon. I don't want to go with you. Please, let me go. Just as the pig demon walked toward the graceful woman, the latter curled up and trembled. Her face was filled with fear. Huilan, even you don't believe me? Upon hearing the graceful woman's words, the pig demon let out a furious roar. Its expression became extremely ferocious. Father, save me. I don't want to go with him. The graceful woman got up from the ground and ran toward Gao Taigong. Her beautiful face was filled with tears. Pig demon, don't you dare take my Huilan away. Gao Taigong pulled out the sword at his waist and shielded the graceful woman behind him. If it weren't for me protecting you, everyone in the Gao family would have been captured long ago. Look at you now. All I did was drink some wine and reveal my true appearance. Why do you hate me so much? You even called me a pig demon. If I wanted to eat people, would I have to wait until today? The pig demon's expression was twisted as it looked at Gao Taigong. Its roar was filled with monstrous anger. After it finished speaking, it strode toward Gao Taigong with the nine-toothed rake in its hand. With every step it took, a deep pit would be left on the ground. Don't come over. Please don't come over. Looking at the approaching pig demon, the graceful woman screamed in a trembling voice as she pulled Gao Taigong back. With a thud, they bumped into Chu Bei's arms. You are. When Gao Huilan saw Bei's appearance, she stuttered. When she saw Sun Wukong, her body, which was already trembling because of fear, trembled even faster. Don't be nervous. It's okay. Chu Bei patted Gao Huilan's shoulder gently, indicating for her to relax. Then, he calmly walked in front of Gao Taigong. Who are you two? Get lost. The pig demon glared viciously at Chu Bei and Sun Wukong, his eyes filled with viciousness. Chu Bei smiled and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He was unmoved and had a playful look on his face. Do you want to die? Sensing the mockery in Chu Bei's eyes, the anger on the demon pig's face intensified. He raised his nine-toothed rake and swung it, sending out a beam of white light. As the Canopy Marshal, who once controlled the 80,000 Heavenly River Navy, he was banished to the human world because he took liberties with Fairy Chang'e. Could it be that you still haven't come to your senses? You still can't get around the word lust? Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and the pig demon's attack vanished. You. Who are you? How do you know all this? Upon hearing Chu Bei mention Martial Canopy, the pig demon's expression changed drastically. The pig demon stopped in his tracks and sized up Chu Bei again. He was sure that this guy was not an immortal official from the heavens. I'm a merchant who travels the Devata realms. I passed by this place and felt that we're fated to meet. Chu Bei placed his hands on his back and looked at Zhu Bajie calmly. You used to be the Canopy Marshal, but now you've become a pig demon. Are you going to live like this forever? The pig demon looked at Chu Bei coldly and said, What do you mean by that? I'd like to take you as my disciple and let you manage a shop. You'll receive a lot of wealth in exchange for supreme divine abilities, Chu Bei said indifferently. What nonsense are you spouting? Let me see what you're capable of. The pig demon gripped his nine-toothed rake tightly as he looked at Chu Bei disdainfully. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he felt as though an irresistible mountain had crashed down on him. There was a loud boom. The pig demon's feet sank into the ground before he smashed into the ground, creating a crater with a diameter of 10 meters. Since you've spoken rudely to me, I'll give you a light punishment. As soon as Chu Bei finished speaking, the pig demon in the crater seemed to be lifted up by an invisible force. At this moment, the pig demon's body was covered in blood. Even his head was bruised. He looked extremely pitiful. That's great. The pig demon has been taken down. Celestial. You must be a celestial. Upon hearing the shouts, the people who had fled outside the mansion rushed in again. Their faces were filled with joy when they saw the pig demon who was on the verge of death. Do you think the pig demon is the culprit behind the disappearance of the people in the mansion? At the thought of this, everyone glared at the pig demon angrily. Although they wanted nothing more than to tear the pig demon into pieces, no one dared to step forward after sensing the pig demon's might. Everyone, don't be afraid. The pig demon has been subdued by a celestial. He can't fight back at all. Everyone, let's take a knife and kill him. Looking at the immobilized pig demon, Gao Taigong took the lead and walked towards the pig demon with his sword in hand. The others followed suit. Even you want to kill me? The pig demon ignored Grand Elder Gao. His gaze landed on Gao Huilan, who was holding a dagger. He shook his head, his expression desolate. Come back, all of you. As the indifferent voice drifted through the mansion, Gao Taigong and the others, who had already walked up to the pig demon with sharp blades in hand, were inexplicably pushed back by a wave of power. When Grand Elder Gao and the others were less than a meter away from the pig demon, Chu Bei's calm voice rang out. Although he changed his appearance to fool you, he didn't mean anything bad. He's just been tainted by lust. Celestial, does he really have nothing to do with the people who were taken away by the pig demon in the past 2 weeks? Then where were they taken? Grand Elder Gao was perplexed. Chu Bei ignored Grand Elder Jiang and fixed his gaze on the pig demon. Do you want to continue being a pig demon that everyone hates, or do you want to come under my tutelage? I can guarantee that the reputation of the All-Heaven shop in the future will not be inferior to that of the Heavenly Court. Sensing that the binding force had disappeared, the pig demon shook his fat body and walked past Gao Huilan. He shook his head and sighed. There was no longer any reluctance in his eyes. I've been obsessed with love all my life, but in the end, I realized that so-called love is bullshit. The pig demon seemed to have seen through him. There was self-mockery in his roar. After venting his emotions, he fell to his knees in front of Chu Bei. Master, please accept this pig Gonglia's 3 kowtows. The pig demon kowtowed 3 times to Chu Bei. It was obvious that he had acknowledged his master's strength. You broke the law in the heavenly court, but you're not changing your lust. Since you're a man of few words, why don't you just call yourself Pig Beiji? Chu Bei waved his hand and lifted the kneeling pig demon. In terms of cultivation, the pig demon had reached the soul formation realm and was no weaker than the East Sea Wirm king. Thank you for the name, master. Zhu Beiji bowed again to Chu Bei, then pointed at Sun Wukong. Master, who is he? His name is Sun Wukong. He's your senior brother. You two should get along well in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Bei waved his right hand. A ring that emitted light appeared on his palm. Master, what's this? Zhu Beiji took the proxy ring and looked at Chu Bei in confusion. This is Master's inheritance ring. You'll know how wonderful it is very soon. Sun Wukong spoke on behalf of Chu Bei. Drip a drop of blood into the ring, and you'll understand everything. Zhu Beiji did not hesitate. He bit his index finger and dripped a drop of blood into the proxy ring. Host has successfully signed a contract with Zhu Beiji. Host has received 1 use of Xiao Hei's power. Level 1 proxy gift pack issued. Chu Bei's lips curled up as he listened to the system notification and looked at the number of uses of Xiao Hei's power. Beiji, this is a meeting gift from your master to you. Chu Bei opened the proxy gift bag, which also contained a translucent, crystalline pill. What a strong medicinal aroma. Zhu Beiji sniffed greedily. He quickly took the elixir and sniffed it. Then, he threw it into his mouth. This process was very similar to Sun Wukong's. 15 minutes later. Master, I seem to have mastered the power of wind. After feeling the changes in his body, Zhu Beiji pointed his finger and several wind blades flew out. The sound of the blades slicing through the air could be heard. Chu Bei nodded slightly. Master, I don't want to stay in Elder Gao's manor for even a moment longer. After familiarizing himself with his new ability, Zhu Beiji coldly glanced at Elder Gao and the others. Rumble. Just as Zhu Beiji finished speaking, a strange rumbling sound came from the sky. Then, a black fog shrouded the area, releasing a terrifying aura. They're here. They're here. Seeing the sudden appearance of the black fog, Elder Gao and the others were stunned. Then, fear appeared on their faces. They all knelt in front of Chu Bei. Looks like the missing people in the village were not the doing of the pig demon. Immortal, I beg you, please save us. I don't want to die. We don't want to die. Not only Elder Gao and the others, but all the residents of Elder Gao's manor were trembling. They looked at the black fog in the sky with fear. Beiji, do you know the demon behind this? Chu Bei asked Zhu Beiji. Zhu Beiji shook his head. Master, I was just lying to them. I can only deal with these small demons. As for the big demon behind this, I have never seen it before, let alone know where it is. This manor needs 300 people today. Do it. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the black fog. In the next moment, several figures walked out of the fog. These figures all had different appearances. There was a giant winged centipede, a strange spirit with the face of a man and the body of a lion, and even a silver wolf with a single golden horn. Immortal, it's them. A villager recognized these demons, and his face instantly paled. There's no need to panic. Since this god has run into them, I naturally have to resolve this matter for you. Chu Bei glanced at the black fog in the sky. As he spoke, his body began to rise into the air, growing larger and larger. In the end, he stood in the sky like a giant that could support the heavens and the earth. Even on the border of Yusang, one could clearly see Chu Bei. Daddy, Mommy, look, it's that immortal that just came to our house. He's so big. A 5-year-old child pointed at the giant in the sky, his face filled with excitement. At this moment, Chu Bei stood in the sky, his brow gradually creasing. In all of Yusang, the demonic energy of the Elder Gao Manor was considered weak. The demonic energy of the capital and its surrounding cities was truly terrifying. Yusang, the imperial city, the imperial palace. Outside the ascending dragon palace, rows of soldiers wearing exquisite armor and wielding sharp weapons warily looked at the black fog in the sky. Among them, several dozen Taoists wearing strange robes were casting spells, as if they were expelling evil gods. In the hall, a middle-aged man wearing a dragon robe had a grave expression, his eyes brimming with unease. Your Majesty, look at the sky. Immortal. Those immortal officials in the sky have finally heard our prayers. An immortal official has descended to save us. Wonderful. We don't need to fear those monsters anymore. A general cried out in alarm as he gazed at that massive figure that had suddenly appeared in the sky above the black fog. Will this immortal official be a match for him? The Wuxi Emperor seemed to know something. As he looked at Chu Bei in the sky, the unease on his face did not fade. Thwish, thwish, thwish. Above the Elder Gao Manor, the creature that had emerged from the black fog was the first to dive down, its expression savage as it let out a terrifying shriek. Immortal, save us. The villagers all panicked at the sight of the monsters diving down, and they hurriedly kowtowed to Chu Bei, begging for help. At this moment, Chu Bei extended a finger, and a demonic wind began to rise above the Elder Gao Manor. To be more precise, this was a terrifying storm of energy accompanied by countless wind blades. Just when the monsters were about to descend to the ground and grab the villagers, they suddenly began to scream. In the storm of energy, these monsters were mercilessly sliced apart by the wind blades, their bodies turning into chunks of flesh and blood spraying across the sky. This is death. Immortal. It was Immortal who saved us. It's fine now. We don't need to worry about being captured by monsters anymore. Taigong Gao and the others were stunned, and then they began to excitedly shout. Who are you? Looking down at the corpses on the ground, a cold and fearful rebuke came out of the black fog. Since you're already here, why are you hiding? Chu Bei looked at the black fog calmly. With just a beam of light from his eyes, the black fog above Old Gao village collapsed. Soon after, a creature with the head of a deer and the body of a snake was captured. Let me go, or else the Inspiration King won't let you go. The creature looked at Chu Bei in fear. Inspiration King? That name is rather familiar. Chu Bei froze for a moment, and then his smile deepened. Where is he? Where are the people you've captured? Forget it. Since you won't say, this one can't be bothered to ask. Chu Bei sighed when he saw the other party was unwilling to speak for a long time, and then he flicked his finger, causing the being with the head of a deer and the body of a snake to directly explode and transform into a ball of bloody mist. After dealing with the monsters above the Elder Gao Manor, Chu Bei turned to look at the other regions of Yusang. Boom, boom, boom. Chu Bei stood in the distant sky, his massive body swinging down palm after palm. In a few moments, the black fog covering Yusang began to explode and dissipate. In almost a moment, screams and wails began to ring out from every place in Yusang except the Elder Gao Manor. This was especially true in the Imperial City and the surrounding cities. When the thick black fog dissipated, a pungent rain of blood began to fall from the sky, and one could even faintly make out white bone fragments. Chapter 324. Your Majesty, the demonic chi has scattered. Those demons have all been smashed to bits by the immortal official. Safe, we're safe. We don't need to worry about being captured by these demons. Within the Imperial Palace, the officials cried out in alarm, all of them crying tears of gratitude as they kowtowed to Chu Bei. You ruined my plans. No matter who you are, this king will have you dead. At this moment, the imperial city of Yusang began to fiercely sway as if it had been struck by an earthquake. A roar brimming with hatred came from the depths of the earth, as if it had come from the nine nether abyss. It's come. The Wus emperor paled at this voice, his body beginning to tremble. A general hastily went up to support him. Your Majesty, are you all right? This immortal official shouldn't have appeared. Because of him, Yusang might be destroyed ahead of time. The Wus emperor collapsed to the ground, his face pale and his eyes brimming with fear. Your Majesty, do you know something? Could it be that your Majesty has interacted with this great demon? A general asked as he hastily helped the Wus emperor up. He's the Inspiration King. He has come to my dreams many times, telling me that as long as I listen to him, once he has absorbed enough yang qi, he will leave my Yusang. But now, this immortal who came out of nowhere has killed his little demon, completely infuriating him. The Wus emperor's entire body was weak, and his expression of fear indicated that he had seen the methods of the Inspiration King. Your Majesty, this immortal is very strong. He will definitely be able to subdue the Inspiration King, the general said. The Wus emperor's face was ashen. Impossible. That Inspiration King isn't an ordinary demon. He has a powerful background. Boom. A massive boom came from beneath the imperial city, shaking all of Yusang. At this moment, no matter where one was in Yusang, one could clearly feel their body tremble, like a temporary earthquake had struck. Everyone in Yusang narrowed their eyes, a chill surging through their hearts. With the imperial city as the center, a black fog began to rise from the land of Yusang. Almost in an instant, the originally clear sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds and darkened all of a sudden. It was as if the day had come to dusk. Within the dark clouds, 9-colored lightning rumbled. Its aura was terrifying, and it was actually accompanied by chaotic energy. It covered the heavens, and the scene was vast and intimidating. The entire sky seemed like it was about to shatter. What's going on? Hadn't those demons already been exterminated by the immortal official? Why did the situation change all of a sudden? Could it be that other than those monsters, there are even more powerful monsters? With such a huge commotion, if there really is such a great demon, do you think the immortal official in the sky will be a match for it? The people of Yusang looked up at the phenomena above them and then at Chu Bei's massive figure, worry appearing on their faces. This great Yao is not to be underestimated. He is probably already at the loose immortal stage. Within Old Gao Manor, Zhu Beiji shuddered. Compared to the fear of the commoners, Chu Bei was not affected at all. He only cast his gaze in the direction of the imperial city. Rumble. With a strange buzzing, the imperial city shuddered even more intensely. At the same time, all the black fog rising from beneath Yusang began to surge into the sky above the imperial city. Finally, this frightening black fog converged into a massive black hole. The heavens collapsed as a massive humanoid creature dressed in luxurious robes walked out of the hole. Unlike what others imagined, this great king of inspiration was not shrouded in black fog. On the contrary, his entire body was covered in golden light and exuded a holy and pure aura. Because the light around his body was too bright and resplendent, it was impossible to see his true appearance. One could only faintly make out the triangular golden crown on his head and the patterns on his forehead that resembled fish. Ruining this king's plans, you deserve death. The great king of inspiration angrily roared, his aura surging like a tsunami or a river of stars. It's him. The Wuss Emperor immediately recognized the great king of inspiration and pointed in panic at that massive figure in the sky. It wasn't just the Wuss Emperor. At this moment, everyone in Yusang was alarmed. This great king of inspiration that had walked out of the black hole was truly too large, even several times larger than Chu Bei. A little goldfish, after hearing the thanks to the Buddhist Dharma, dares to come out and wreak havoc on the world? Chu Bei looked at the great king of inspiration with interest, a smile on his lips. This great king of inspiration truly was not an ordinary monster. He was a goldfish raised by Guanyin Bodhisattva's lotus pond. Because he had listened to Guanyin Bodhisattva speak of the Buddhist Dharma for many years, he had attained the Tao. You know quite a lot. Then I can't let you leave this place alive. The great king of inspiration towered into the clouds, towering over the vast world as if he had existed for all eternity. His massive eyes coldly stared at Chu Bei. When they opened and closed, they were like two blazing suns. A terrifying aura surged to the heavens and immortal fog curled around his body. What a terrifying monster! Do you think that an immortal can subdue him? In the old Gao manner, everyone raised their heads to look at the great king of inspiration. In terms of size, this immortal was already at a disadvantage. The most nervous person was none other than Zhu Beiji. After all, he had only just become his master, and he truly wanted to know just how strong this master of his had become. You're rather arrogant. Chu Bei looked at the great king of inspiration with a playful expression, his words tinged with ridicule. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, a violet barrier of light enveloped the sky above Yusang, isolating it from the outside world. I'll refine your origin spirit and make you this king's slave. The great king of inspiration's eyes were filled with arrogance, like a god looking down on all living beings. Rumble. As this cold and indifferent voice fell, a massive boom came from above the great king of inspiration's head. Then, a massive fissure spread through space, shattering the heavens as a bronze hammer charged out. As the hammer swayed, a yellow river surged out of the void. All sorts of skeletons and corpses floated in the middle of the river, flowing far into the distance. The yellow water surged, imbued with energy. Whoosh! The surging Acheron rolled, and above it, blood-colored lightning interweaved and danced. This bizarre and frightening scene made one tremble as if the end of the world had arrived. I'll destroy your origin spirit first. The great king of inspiration looked at Chu Bei with a scorching gaze, his face brimming with excitement as if he had seen his prey. As he spoke, the great king of inspiration waved his hammer, and the surging Acheron water surged toward Chu Bei. One could faintly hear the frightening wails of ghosts and wolves. Seeing the surging Acheron water, Chu Bei had an indifferent expression, as if he didn't care about the great king of inspiration at all. With a single step, he appeared above the Acheron water, his clothes flapping in the wind. He gave off an ethereal feeling. He was clearly hovering above the Acheron water, but it was as if he didn't exist, making it difficult to capture him. He extended a white palm and lightly pressed down. The surging black fog rapidly dispersed, and the surging Acheron water was forced back into the hammer as if it had been subjected to a terrifying pressure. For this king, collect. Seeing this, the great king of inspiration creased his brow. With a roar, the hammer instantly began to glow with a strange light. A moment later, the hammer seemed to transform into the giant maw of a savage beast with the power to devour. This 9-petaled scarlet hammer isn't bad. This god will accept it. Chu Bei calmly walked through the air, seemingly unaffected by the devouring power around him. Without realizing it, he had already arrived next to the hammer. After casually fiddling with the hammer for a while, he threw it into the heavenly dimension. Damn it! Return this king's scarlet hammer. The disappearance of the hammer left the great king of inspiration dumbfounded, but when he finally reacted, his face darkened to the extreme. Soon after, the great king of inspiration's hands began to form complicated seals, his mouth beginning to hum. Did you hear that? That's the chanting of sutras. Impossible. How could such a terrifying monster know how to chant sutras? Just what's going on here? In Yusang, the people of Yusang heard the mysterious and incomprehensible chanting of sutras. When they turned to look at the great king of inspiration, their faces were filled with disbelief. Could this monster have listened to the lectures of the immortals and Buddhas? Zhu Beiji carried his nine-toothed rake as he stared in a daze at the great king of inspiration, a look of shock on his face. Buddha idol appear. In the sky, the great king of inspiration finished chanting and then suddenly roared. A moment later, a ripple appeared in front of him. In the ripple, a Buddha idol seemingly cast from gold appeared, wreathed in a holy aura. Under the control of the afflatus king, the Buddha statue emitted a mysterious sound from its mouth. The surface of the statue was flashing with bright runes, and the loud clanging sound of a big hand directly grabbed at Chu Bei. Behind it, the clouds rolled, and a vast golden land appeared. There were countless monks chanting scriptures everywhere. That land, could it be the legendary Holy Land of Buddhism? That's impossible. Could this great king of inspiration really be related to Buddhism? In Yusang, a few of the people who knew a thing or two about cultivation were shocked. I didn't expect you to have such a remarkable ability. Chu Bei's expression became serious. After a moment of hesitation, he did not use Xiaohei's power. Instead, he chose to use the remaining use of a level 16 commodity in the shrouded sky plane. In the journey to the West Plane, level 12 was equivalent to an itinerant immortal, level 13 to a golden immortal, level 14 to a Tai itinerant immortal, level 15 to a Tai golden immortal, and level 16 to a zenith heaven itinerant immortal. In the distant sky, a grayish-black, translucent ripple hammer appeared in Chu Bei's hand. The intertwining black holes within the hammer made one's heart palpitate. The hammer smashed down, tearing the sky apart. The Buddha idol emitting a holy aura trembled, then cracked, and with a boom, it turned into a rain of light and dissipated. Impossible. How could this be? Who are you? Looking at the Buddha idol that had turned into nothingness, the great king of inspiration finally lost his composure. Clearly, Chu Bei's battle prowess was far beyond his imagination. What? Is this all you've got? Where's the momentum from before? Chu Bei's laughter was filled with mockery. Idol, my idol. How dare you destroy my idol? Recovering from his fear, the great king of inspiration was dazed for a moment. Then he seemed to go crazy. He roared at Chu Bei, his voice filled with intense killing intent. Chapter 325. Great Sun Treasure Wheel. The great king of inspiration roared, his majestic divine power spreading out. The space in front of him exploded, and a golden wheel flew out. With a buzz, the great king of inspiration wielded the wheel and charged at Chu Bei, exuding a powerful and divine aura. At this moment, all the spectators in Yusang were shaken. This attack caused the entire sky to tremble as if on the verge of collapse. I wonder just how many treasures you stole from those old Buddhas. Chu Bei sized up the wheel in the great king of inspiration's hand, and then he pointed a finger. With a buzz, light filled the sky. Specks of light wrapped around the great king of inspiration's arm. In an instant, the great king of inspiration screamed, and then the wheel uncontrollably fell off. At this moment, Chu Bei waved his right hand, and an unstoppable heaven-devouring energy gushed out of his palm, sucking the wheel into his hand. Why? The great king of inspiration retreated, putting some distance between himself and Chu Bei as he let out a heaven-shaking roar. Ever since he had stolen the great sun treasure wheel, he had nurtured it for countless years, but now, this fellow in front of him had just severed his connection with it. Come back. In the sky, the great king of inspiration chanted, his hands rapidly forming profound seals. A stream of light shot out of the seals onto the Great Sun treasure wheel in Chu Bei's hand. In a flash, the Great Sun treasure wheel began to spin, exploding with dazzling light. But just when the Great Sun treasure wheel was about to re-establish its connection with the Great King of Inspiration, Chu Bei knowingly smiled and stored it in his miniature world. Return my treasure wheel. Having failed to summon the treasure wheel, the Great King of Inspiration was thoroughly enraged. In the next moment, the golden light released by his body suddenly turned black. Soon after, corpses began to float out of the light, numbering in the tens of thousands. The moment these corpses appeared, the entire Yusang was immersed in an indescribable sorrow. Heart-wrenching cries could be heard from every corner. There were children's cries, young girls' cries, middle-aged men's and women's cries, old women's cries. The cries of various ages intertwined together. It was heart-wrenching and infuriating. It was clear that the corpses around the Great King of Inspiration were ordinary Yusang citizens, the relatives of those crying people. Ah! The Afflatus King let out a furious howl. The blood of the surrounding corpses instantly seeped out from his body. Together with the corpse chi, they surged into the Afflatus King's body. In an instant, the Afflatus King's terrifying aura rose rapidly. Beads of blood seeped out from his body. His eyes turned red and the veins on his face popped out. What you've done is enough for you to die 100 times. Chu Bei's face was extremely cold as he looked at the corpses that had turned into dried corpses. From his cold expression, it was not difficult to see that he was really angry this time. You're the one who died. At this moment, the Afflatus King's entire body was enveloped in a blood-red light film, as if he was a Zhang 6 golden body. With a loud roar, he transformed into a blood-red Buddhist staff. He stabilized the sky and attacked Chu Bei. So what if you used unorthodox methods to break through? You're just a Tai golden immortal. Chu Bei's cold in the forest words were filled with disdain. If it was with his previous strength, he might not be a match for the Afflatus King. But now, he was a level 16 commodity. Chu Bei placed his hands behind his back and stood high in the sky. He glanced at the blood-red Buddhist staff that the Afflatus King had transformed into. He did not move, but a blazing divine light burst out. In an instant, a ripple appeared in front of him. 108 light blades rushed out from the ripple. Every light blade was white in color. It was as if they contained a terrifying power that could crush the sky. They were incomparably brilliant, sacred, and dazzling. When they swept towards the blood-red Buddhist staff, the traces they left behind were like 108 divine chains. Clang! In the blink of an eye, the blood-red Buddhist staff and the 108 light blades intertwined. A dazzling light exploded, and an incomparably terrifying spatial turbulence erupted. If not for the fact that the sky had been isolated by Chu Bei, the entire Yusang kingdom would have been destroyed in this earth-shattering explosion. Pooh! After the explosion, the light gradually dissipated. The blood-red Buddhist staff returned to the Afflatus King's appearance. His body was pierced by the 108 light blades. Bloody holes covered his body. Fresh blood flowed out. It was a ghastly sight. Even more frightening was that when he tried to use Buddhist energy to heal his wounds, he realized that it did not work. No matter how he tried to heal, the wounds continued to bleed. No, don't. Meeting Chu Bei's expressionless gaze, the Afflatus King's eyes lost all will to fight. All that was left was fear. Guanyin Bodhisattva, save me. At this moment, the Afflatus King seemed to have made a painful decision. He spat out a Buddhist bead and crushed it with his finger. That demon has been subdued by the immortal official. Immortal, I beg you to kill him and avenge my child. Immortal, you have to uphold justice for us. Within Yusang, cries of grief could be heard. One by one, people were kneeling and kowtowing to Chu Bei in the distant sky. All of them were begging Chu Bei to execute the Afflatus King. The Afflatus King was actually defeated. In the imperial palace, the Wuxi emperor muttered, his expression absent-minded. He stared in a daze at the sky, apparently not daring to believe what he was seeing. Master is probably a disbanded immortal of the great, all-embracing heaven. At this thought, Zhu Beiji's eyes shone with golden light as he looked at Chu Bei in adoration. Even when he was the canopy marshal of the heavenly court, he was only a golden immortal. As for disbanded immortals of the great, all-embracing heaven, in his understanding, even the 4 heavenly kings were only tiny disbanded immortals. Their strength was only a level higher than this afflatus king. Chu Bei placed his hands behind his back and expressionlessly looked at the afflatus king, his voice cold. Slaughtering ordinary people. This god truly does not want you to die too easily. Fellow immortal, please have mercy. At this moment, an ethereal voice rose from the heavens, echoing in the ears of every Yusang citizen. They could faintly hear the profound and incomprehensible chanting of sutras. A moment later, the Buddhist sutras above the afflatus king filled the air. The sky shattered, and a graceful figure walked out. It gave off an illusory feeling and released a holy aura, causing people to subconsciously want to kneel down and worship it. This was a woman holding a jade bottle. She wore a white heavenly robe and had a dignified and graceful demeanor. She wore a crown on her head and a mist curled around her body. She gave off a kind and amiable feeling. That's Guanyin Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva has appeared. She heard our prayers. She's come. First an immortal, and now Guanyin Bodhisattva. This time, that great demon definitely won't be able to escape. May Buddha protect us. The Yusang people were at first stunned by the sight of the white-clothed woman, but when they recognized her, their faces lit up with excitement. Guanyin Bodhisattva above, I know my wrongs. Please save me. Upon seeing Guanyin Bodhisattva, the afflatus king, who was on the verge of death and had sunk into fear, instantly felt like he had found a life-saving straw. Fellow immortal, this is a goldfish that I raised in my pond. I didn't expect that with its mischievous nature, it would end up in the mortal world. Guanyin Bodhisattva gave a slight nod to Chu Bei and then turned to the afflatus king. You killed civilians. This crime cannot be forgiven. Return with me and accept your punishment. What? Did you hear that? This afflatus king is actually Guanyin Bodhisattva's goldfish. Could it be that Guanyin Bodhisattva didn't come to kill him? She came to save him. No. He killed my child. I can't let him leave like this. Immortal, please uphold justice for us. Kill this great demon. The Yusang citizens once more kowtowed to Chu Bei, some of them even bleeding from their foreheads. Guanyin Bodhisattva, I am willing to accept my punishment. As the afflatus king spoke, his body began to glow as he transformed into a small golden fish. But just when he was about to leave with Guanyin Bodhisattva, his body suddenly trembled. In an instant, he seemed to be bound by some invisible power, unable to move. Following the sound of the fish bones breaking, the afflatus king let out a mournful and painful wail, as if he was suffering from inhumane torture. Did this god say you could leave? At the same time, Chu Bei's extremely calm voice drifted through the air. Although his voice was not loud, it shook the hearts of all the Yusang citizens, brimming with supreme majesty. Guanyin Bodhisattva, save me. The goldfish that the afflatus king had transformed into had a twisted expression, his aura growing weaker and weaker. Guanyin Bodhisattva glanced at the afflatus king, and then turned the pearl in her hand to Chu Bei. Fellow immortal, this evil creature has truly committed a heinous crime. Please allow me to bring him back and punish him. As for these dead civilians, I will go to the underworld and speak with the king of hell so that they can join a good family in their next life. When he was slaughtering these civilians, where were you? Facing Guanyin Bodhisattva's gaze, Chu Bei's voice was calm, but it was not difficult to hear the questioning tone in his voice. I was in seclusion at the time and did not know. Otherwise, I would never have allowed this evil creature to commit such acts. Guanyin Bodhisattva shook her head. Then did you hear the pleas of the civilians below? Chu Bei indifferently looked at Guanyin Bodhisattva. Since you were not present when he was slaughtering the civilians, what right do you have to take him away from this god? What does fellow immortal mean? Guanyin Bodhisattva slightly frowned. This god naturally wants to personally kill this evil creature in front of the civilians. Chu Bei's eyes focused, his voice cold. Guanyin Bodhisattva's expression turned somewhat unsightly. Fellow immortal, you are somewhat unfamiliar. What position do you hold in the heavenly court? I have also discussed Buddhist scriptures with the Jade Emperor. Heavenly court? Chu Bei smiled. A mere heavenly court is not enough for this god. Chu Bei's voice was cold. He had already used the rights to use a level 16 commodity. How could he let the Afflatus King leave? Moreover, he wanted to use this opportunity to increase his reputation. You are a rogue cultivator. Guanyin Bodhisattva's expression clearly changed when she heard Chu Bei's words. She seemed to be unable to believe that a rogue cultivator could injure the Afflatus King. Chapter 326. That's all I have to say. You may leave. As for this vile creature, leave it to this god to deal with. In the distant sky, Chu Bei waved at Guanyin Bodhisattva. At this moment, the Afflatus King's cries became even more wretched, as if the torture in his body was intensifying. Guanyin Bodhisattva, save me. The Afflatus King's aura was extremely weak, as if he would die at any moment. His legs protruded from his belly as he knelt in front of Guanyin Bodhisattva. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at Chu Bei. Fellow immortal, are you really so stubborn? Guanyin Bodhisattva shook her head. As she caressed the jade bottle, she began to chant sutras. Do you want to exchange pointers with this god? Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, calmly looking at Guanyin Bodhisattva. If defeating fellow immortal is the only way to take this vile creature away, then I'm willing to try. As she spoke, Guanyin Bodhisattva took out a willow branch from the jade bottle. With a whoosh, a golden light shot out, transforming into a streak of sword chi that shot toward Chu Bei. The golden light illuminated the heavens, peerlessly sharp as it slashed down. Clang! With a flick of his finger, Chu Bei easily deflected Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden light. How can this be? Is Guanyin Bodhisattva going to fight the immortal? Do you think Guanyin Bodhisattva will injure the immortal? After all, he's fighting for us. If Guanyin Bodhisattva injures the immortal, I won't worship him anymore. No matter if the immortal wins or loses, I'll carve a statue of him and worship him every day. As they looked up at the two figures clashing in the sky, the Tibetan people felt their hearts rise to their throats. I have no intention of interfering, but fellow immortal is too stubborn. Guanyin Bodhisattva looked at Chu Bei and shook her head. Then, she turned the jade bottle. Great mercy! As she shouted, the chanting of the great Tao resounded in the sky. Dazzling symbols appeared behind Guanyin Bodhisattva. Dazzling divine light shot out from his body and transformed into 5 illusory Buddhas. At first glance, these 5 Buddhas all looked like Guanyin Bodhisattva, but the aura they gave off was different, corresponding to the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Is this the method of Buddhism? Sun Wukong looked at the scene in the sky with his mouth slightly agape. He was a little surprised. The merciful and compassionate palm has actually cultivated the 5 elements. No wonder it's one of the most powerful deities below Tathagata. Zhu Beiji stared at Guanyin Bodhisattva in shock. Is this Guanyin Pusa very strong? Sun Wukong asked curiously. Great compassion is one of the supreme arts of Buddhism. Those who cultivated the 5 elements body were difficult to kill. Even if we kill all 4 of them and leave only one, we will still be fine. Zhu Beiji seemed to know something. He paused for a moment and then continued. When all 5 of them move together, they will be invincible. I'm afraid Guanyin Pusa is already a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. Hearing this, Goku frowned, and his face became solemn. Fellow immortal, take this. In the sky, Guanyin Bodhisattva waved her willow branch. The 5 Buddhas glabella glowed, and at the same time, they struck out with their palms. Whoosh! 5 palm prints shook the sky. One was burning with fire, one was boiling with earth chi, one was filled with true water, one was filled with giant wood, and one was filled with golden light. In an instant, the 5 Buddhas' shadows appeared in front of Chu Bei from different directions. surrounding him. The chanting of Buddha, the rotation of the 5 elements, could destroy the world. What right do you have to be merciful to protect a person who deserves to be killed? How can the merciful and compassionate palm reach the ultimate tripod realm with such a state of mind? Chu Bei's indifferent and mocking voice fell. He waved his sleeve, and 3,000 light balls appeared around him. Each light ball was like a dazzling sun. Before the 5 elements palm print struck, the 3,000 light balls connected with each other and then spread out with a boom. After the 5 elements palm prints were destroyed, the 3,000 light balls did not disappear. Instead, they rushed towards the 5 Buddhas. Swish, swish, swish. The moment the 5 Buddhas were swallowed up, divine light flowed through the 3,000 light balls, seeming to be able to devour endless vitality. With a frightening and bizarre sound, the 5 Buddhas began to crack, and in the end, they were reduced to a rain of light. Did you see that? Guanyin Bodhisattva's attack was destroyed by the immortal again. This immortal is so strong. Does anyone know where he came from? Even in the heavens, his status is probably not low. With this immortal descending, the heavens have blessed our country. Looking at the 5 Buddhas who were dispersing on the battlefield, the crowd was overjoyed. Clearly, they hoped that Chu Bei could win the battle. In contrast, the great king of inspiration's eyes were filled with both fear and regret. If he had known that this immortal who had appeared out of nowhere could fight with Guanyin Bodhisattva, he would have never shown himself. At the same time, the Earthen Duke, Granny of Earth, King Sunflower, and the other wandering immortals of Yusang were also alarmed, and they all looked up at the sky in disbelief. It seems that I still underestimated fellow immortal. Guanyin Bodhisattva put the willow branch back into the jade bottle and gave Chu Bei an approving look. The merciful and compassionate palm she had used earlier had been linked together, and her attack had been flawless. An ordinary disbanded immortal would have found it difficult to take on. But not only was this person completely unharmed, he had even easily destroyed it. Are you still going to persist in your error? Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, expressionlessly looking at Guanyin Bodhisattva. I'll try again. Guanyin Bodhisattva's expression turned serious, and a frightening and intimidating aura erupted from her body. At their level, when their cultivation was restrained, their body and mind would be as tranquil as a spirit lake, graceful and otherworldly. But once they erupted, they would be like an immortal sword slicing through the void, frightening to the extreme. Just who was that person? To be able to force Guanyin Bodhisattva to take him so seriously. Sensing Guanyin Bodhisattva's aura, the spectating disbanded immortals turned to Chu Bei, their eyes filled with shock. At this moment, Guanyin Bodhisattva's entire body was wrapped in golden talismans, and her flesh was filled with energy. She was like a hibernating immortal phoenix. Fellow immortal, excuse me. Guanyin Bodhisattva's aura completely erupted at this moment. Her eyes shone brightly, and 2 beams of silver light shot out from her pupils, transforming into 2 red-crowned cranes. Carrying a white wave of energy, they charged at Chu Bei. Seeing this, the spectating disbanded immortals were stunned. Clearly, they had not expected Guanyin Bodhisattva to use such a terrifying move. The true battle had erupted in an instant. The ordinary people stared blankly at the sky, their eyes focused on Guanyin Bodhisattva, their mouths wide open. Her opponent had created such a frightening scene with just a single glance. The sight of the silver-crowned cranes in her pupils was truly shocking. So what if you're a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven? This one doesn't care. Chu Bei pressed his fingers together and struck forward. The vault of heaven suddenly collapsed. Even with the red light isolating them, the Yusang people still felt their ears ring. Then, countless rays of divine light converged into 2 dazzling chains that shot toward Guanyin Bodhisattva's eyes like lightning bolts. Wherever the chains passed, the leaves formed from ripples in the air danced in the wind like a torrential downpour. Moreover, they carried with them a brilliant light that extinguished the vast white flames. Guanyin Bodhisattva frowned. She struck out with her branch once more, and dense inscriptions appeared at the tip of the branch to meet Chu Bei's 2 golden chains. Duan. With a trembling sound, the willow branches blocked the divine chains formed by the divine light. Guanyin Bodhisattva shouted and turned into a red-crowned crane. With a screech, it spread its wings and dove towards Chu Bei with blinding white light and overflowing silver flames. This was the heavenly crane treasured art, the most famous sacred art of Buddhism. Guanyin Bodhisattva had cultivated it to great mastery, and her powers were unparalleled. At this instant, it was as if space had been imprisoned, time had stopped, and everything had become deathly silent. The earthly god, earthly granny, King Sunflower, and the other wandering immortals held their breaths as they stared at the battlefield in the sky. The Yusang people were even more nervous as they stared unblinkingly at this earth-shattering attack. The famous heavenly crane treasured art of Buddhism shone brilliantly in the hands of Guanyin Bodhisattva. A full-strength attack could shake the sun, moon, and stars. If Tathagata had used this art, it might have been a little interesting. But in your hands, it's a little lacking. In contrast to the astonishment of the wandering immortals and commoners, Chu Bei's expression was as calm as ever. But when the crane arrived, the golden light around Chu Bei transformed into a five-clawed divine dragon that charged forward. The golden scales and green body flowed with primordial energy, origin energy, and great Tao divine energy. Boom! In the distant sky, the crane and divine dragon collided. It was like a tsunami crashing against the shore, like rocks shattering the clouds. Divine energy surged in all directions, and sacred light could be seen everywhere, sweeping through everything as easily as crushing dry weeds. Under this terrifying collision, the isolated sky was filled with a dense white light. The spectators below felt a piercing pain in their eyes. They couldn't open their eyes, and some people even unknowingly shed tears. Crane shakes the nine heavens. Divine dragon shocks the heavens. The two divine beasts clashed, and strange phenomena appeared. The crane was surrounded by Buddhist scriptures, and the divine dragon was surrounded by golden light. Bang! Finally, the white light dissipated, and with a heaven-shaking explosion, the crane was sent flying. At a closer look, the crane's body had caved in and was covered in golden light. Its body was rapidly shriveling, and its flesh was about to be sucked dry. Just as the crane was about to turn into a dried corpse, a profound chant came from its stomach. The next moment, the golden light was sent flying, and the crane returned to Guanyin Bodhisattva's appearance. Her chest heaved violently as she spat out a mouthful of golden blood. Do you still want to continue? On the battlefield, Chu Bei stared calmly at Guanyin Bodhisattva with his hands behind his back. Guanyin Bodhisattva steadied herself, and her eyes were still filled with fighting spirit. But just as she was about to continue channeling her divine energy, there was a loud bang, and a huge crack appeared in the sky above her. From the gap, a huge immortal stone smashed down. The moment the immortal stone appeared, Guanyin Bodhisattva raised her hand to meet it, but in the next moment, her expression changed. The immortal stone didn't look big, but it seemed to be infinitely heavy, and contained a terrifying force that was difficult to resist. Crack! Guanyin Bodhisattva frowned, and then the bones in her hand cracked. Her face paled, and she raised her hand again, and her body was covered in golden light. At the same time, she quickly chanted profound scriptures, and one golden swastika after another bombarded the immortal stone. But even though Guanyin Bodhisattva used all her strength, she couldn't stop the immortal stone from falling. Guanyin Bodhisattva has mastered the heavenly crane treasure technique, but she's still at a disadvantage. It's said that Guanyin Bodhisattva was already a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven thousands of years ago, but she's still lost. Could that immortal be a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, or even a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven? Since the creation of the world, there have been very few golden immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, and every one of them is famous. Why haven't I seen him before? Earthly god, earthly woman, and the rest of the disbanded immortals looked at Guanyin Bodhisattva, whose aura was chaotic and her face was pale as she tried her best to block the immortal stone. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed that there was someone they had never heard of who could hurt the legendary Guanyin Bodhisattva. Immediately, all of them looked at Chu Bei again with even more respect in their eyes. Perhaps this immortal of unknown origin was most likely a golden immortal of the great, all-embracing heaven. Do you still have anything to rely on now? On the battlefield, Chu Bei's gaze shifted from Guanyin Bodhisattva to the Afflatus King, and his calm voice carried a hint of mockery. Hearing this, the Afflatus King's body trembled. Ever since Guanyin Bodhisattva was at a disadvantage, his heart had sunk to the bottom. Bear the consequences for your heinous crimes. A cold voice floated in the air, and the divine light that filled the sky surged towards the Afflatus King. In an instant, the Afflatus King's terrified roar reverberated between heaven and earth. His roar was filled with pain, as if he was experiencing the most inhumane torture in the world. Guanyin Bodhisattva, save me. Within the divine light, the Afflatus King's intermittent cries for help could be heard, and his voice was getting weaker. Guanyin Bodhisattva glanced at the Afflatus King who was being tortured in the yellow sand, and shook her head and sighed. She wanted to save him, but she was powerless. To be precise, she was also in a dangerous situation. The immortal stone above her head seemed to be blessed with an unknown mysterious power. No matter how she urged the divine power in her body, she couldn't stop it from descending. What was more terrifying was that the immortal stone had locked onto her, and she had nowhere to run. If this continued, not only her body, but even her primordial spirit would be destroyed by the immortal stone. Rumble. Finally, with a heaven-shaking boom and the Afflatus King's final scream, crimson blood drifted down from the divine light, along with piles of shattered bones. All of you, look. That great demonic beast is dead. Wonderful. The immortal killed the Afflatus King and took revenge for those who died. In the future, we won't have to live in fear anymore. We can finally leave our rooms. As they watched the drops of blood fall from the heavens, the Tibetan people recovered from their shock and began to cheer in excitement and agitation. The relatives of the deceased were particularly excited, their tears falling like rain. In the end, they all began to kowtow to Chu Bei, their faces filled with piety and gratitude. Chapter 327. Bang! On the battlefield, the immortal stone landed on Guanyin Bodhisattva's body. With a boom, Guanyin Bodhisattva exploded. However, just as the immortal stone was about to hit Guanyin Pusa's primordial spirit, Chu Bei raised his hand and the immortal stone disappeared. Following that, Guanyin Bodhisattva's physical body reformed. Although she looked fine, her aura was clearly much weaker. It seems that my cultivation is still too shallow. Thank you for your mercy, fellow immortal. Guanyin Bodhisattva glanced at where the Afflatus King was, shook her head, and looked at Chu Bei. She sighed helplessly. Since you're already here, why hide? At this moment, Chu Bei's gaze swept through the surroundings. As his calm voice faded, ripples appeared in the void, and then one figure after another walked out from within. That's Akalanatha, Peacock Wisdom King, Maitreya Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, and Manjushri Bodhisattva. When they saw the appearance of the people in the sky, Earthen God, Earthen Granny, and the other loose immortals were terrified. Other than these Buddhist bigwigs, there were also many heavenly court immortal officials, such as the South Pole Immortal Elder, Elder Yueshia, Count of Wind, and Lord of Rain. The common people of Yusang were also dumbstruck, their expressions wooden as if they had been struck by a bolt from the blue. The figures that appeared in the sky were the immortals and Buddhas that they worshipped on a daily basis. But now, they actually appeared in front of them. The appearance of Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and the other bodhisattvas did not affect Guanyin Bodhisattva's emotions. Obviously, she already knew that these people were watching in the dark. Fellow immortal, your methods are unfathomable. May I ask which sect you are from? The Peacock Bright Monarch greeted Chu Bei. Sect? Chu Bei chuckled. I formed my own sect. What sect is there to speak of? Or perhaps, I'm just a merchant from outside the realm. Merchant? I wonder what fellow immortal is selling? Upon hearing Chu Bei's words, The group of immortals and Buddhas looked at each other, but they could see the confusion in each other's eyes. Obviously, no one knew the person in front of them. All Heaven's Shop, that's the name of my shop. You'll know it in the near future. Chu Bei's words weren't just for the immortals and Buddhas in the sky, but also for all the people of Yuseng. Did you hear that? Immortal. He doesn't seem to be from the heavenly court. All Heaven's Shop? What kind of shop was that? What are they selling? Why haven't I heard of it before? I don't care anymore. From now on, my religion will change from Buddhism to the All Heaven's Shop. Who asked Guanyin Bodhisattva to protect that big demon? Say, do you think the All Heaven's Shop is a place that takes in odd jobs? Where is the address? Just as the Tibetan residents were discussing the All Heaven's Shop, Chu Bei, who was standing in the distant sky, spoke again, as if to solve their confusion. The All Heaven's Shop is currently located in the Huagua Mountain of the Aolai Nation of the Dongsheng Divine Continent. In a few days, branches will be opened in all the cities. At that time, I hope you will visit more often. The All Heaven's Shop can give you everything you want, including allowing you to become immortals. As Chu Bei spoke, Yusang instantly began to clamor, all of them eager to move. Dongsheng Divine Continent, Aolai Kingdom. I'll remember this name. Once I have money, I'll definitely go and take a look. As long as I'm strong, I can protect my parents. I won't have to fear demons. In the Gao village, figures clenched their fists as they muttered the name of the All Heaven's Shop. Has fellow immortal ever thought of entering my heavenly court? With fellow immortal strength, you can definitely become an important immortal official. Elder Yueshia smiled at Chu Bei. Moreover, if fellow immortal needs it, this senior can even grant fellow immortal a beautiful marriage. When it comes to marriage, I naturally have to trouble Elder Yueshia to increase my fortune. But as for entering the heavenly court, let's forget about it. After all, this god comes from outside the realm and is the owner of the All Heaven's Shop. Perhaps in the future, the All Heaven's Shop's reputation will be on par with the heavenly court. Chu Bei's attitude toward Elder Yueshia was clearly different from how he treated other immortals and Buddhas. He was clearly much more polite. Perhaps one day, this god will even invite you to join the All Heaven's Shop. Fellow immortal, you must be joking. Elder Yueshia smiled embarrassedly, clearly thinking that Chu Bei was joking. Fellow immortal, where is this outside the realm that you speak of? When Elder Yueshia asked this question, Guanyin Pusa, Maitreya Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, and the others all looked at Chu Bei in confusion. Outside the heavenly court, there's an even vaster world that you don't know about. Or perhaps, your world is already in the world that this god speaks of. Chu Bei said calmly as he straightened his clothes. A vaster world? What do you mean? Elder Yueshia, Maitreya Bodhisattva, and the others were even more confused. One day, when your cultivation is strong enough to break this realm wall, you'll naturally understand what I mean. Chu Bei didn't go overboard. With that, Chu Bei nodded to the group of immortals and Buddhas before landing on Old Gao Manor. Master, you defeated Guanyin Pusa. As soon as Chu Bei appeared in the Gao residence, Zhu Beiji was the first to shout, his face full of admiration. Master, are you a Daluo Golden Immortal? Zhu Beiji couldn't help but ask tentatively. You'll slowly find out in the future. Chu Bei patted Zhu Beiji. Let's go back to Mount Huagua. At this moment, the sky above Mount Huagua was filled with heavenly soldiers in exquisite armor. These heavenly soldiers were lined up neatly with an imposing aura. In front of them was the Dragon King of the East Sea and Neza, who stood on the windfire wheels, had the heaven and earth ring, and wielded the fire-tipped spear. Where is the person who trespassed the Dragon Palace? Neza's red armillary sash danced in the wind as his cold voice echoed in Mount Huagua. These heavenly soldiers, they're here to look for the boss. In front of the water curtain cave, a group of monkeys gathered together and looked at the heavenly soldiers in horror. Old Dragon King, are you sure the All Heaven's Shop is located in Mount Huagua? Seeing that no one responded, Neza frowned and looked at the old Dragon King. Don't you see the words All Heaven's Shop? the Dragon King of the East Sea pointed at the eye-catching golden words above the water curtain cave and said, "Those wild monkeys probably know where that guy went." With a deep shout, the Dragon King of the East Sea stretched out his hand and instantly captured nearly 10 wild monkeys. "Speak, where is that guy?" The Dragon King of the East Sea stared coldly at the wild monkeys as a majestic aura emanated from his body. "Boss, he. The wild monkeys captured by the Dragon King of the East Sea trembled as cold sweat seeped out of their foreheads. Their faces were filled with fear as they stammered. "What's the meaning of this array, staff? It doesn't look like you're here to visit me." At this moment, a mocking voice drifted through the void. Then, the wild monkeys captured by the Dragon King of the East Sea were safely sent to the Water Curtain Cave by an invisible force. The owner of the All Heavens shop. Hearing the voice, the Dragon King of the East Sea's expression changed. Not only him, but Neza and the heavenly soldiers also looked around. Amid the buzzing sound, a ripple appeared in the void as 3 figures slowly walked out. "You're the owner of the All Heavens shop?" Neza's gaze landed on Chu Bei as he frowned. "That's me." Chu Bei smiled at Neza. Naturally, he recognized the other party's identity at first glance. "Hand over the godly sea-steadying needle and follow me to the heavenly court to meet the Jade Emperor." Neza's voice was cold. "The godly sea-steadying needle has recognized my disciple as its master. It already has an owner. What right do you have to make me hand it over?" Chu Bei had a playful look on his face. "You're really stubborn." As soon as he finished speaking, Neza stepped on the firestorm wheels and flew toward Chu Bei with the fire-tipped spear in his hands. Everywhere he passed turned into a sea of fire as the scorching heat burned through the void. "Even if your master, Tai Zhenren, is here, he's just a junior in my eyes." Chu Bei looked at Neza nonchalantly and smiled faintly. "I don't have time to play with juniors like you." After saying that, Chu Bei raised his hand. Divine light surged in his palm and formed a giant hand that was tens of thousands of feet long. The giant hand swept across, emitting a dazzling golden light. With a bang, the sky collapsed. Following that, miserable screams rang out. Neza, the Dragon King of the East Sea, and the heavenly soldiers were nowhere to be seen. The sky was quiet. However, the monkeys in front of the Water Curtain Cave were in an uproar as they howled excitedly. "Boss is mighty." The monkeys looked at Chu Bei with admiration and cheered. Zhu Beiji was also shocked and dazed. Then, he seemed to have thought of something, and his face turned gray. "Master, that's the Dragon King of the East Sea and the martial god Neza. You sent them flying just like that. You're going against the heavenly court." As the former Marshal Tianpong, Zhu Beiji knew the heavenly court's power very well. He could not help but look worried. "Have you forgotten what I've said? The All Heavens shop will be a force that is not weaker than the heavenly court." Chu Bei glanced at Zhu Beiji. "The heavenly court soldiers are already at Mount Huagua. How can I let them do whatever they want?" "Well, master, you're right." After stuttering for a while, Zhu Beiji squeezed out these words. Outside the southern heavenly gate, a long rainbow streaked across the sky. With a loud bang, Neza, the Dragon King of the East Sea, and the others crashed into the great hall. "Damn it, this is the golden immortal you mentioned?" Neza's breathing was chaotic as he glared at the Dragon King of the East Sea. Compared to Neza, the Dragon King of the East Sea was in an even more miserable state. Not only was he covered in blood, but one of his dragon horns was broken. "I want to see the Jade Emperor." The Dragon King of the East Sea's eyes were filled with hatred. However, when he arrived at the main hall, he learned that the Jade Emperor was in seclusion, and the heavenly court's affairs were temporarily handled by the Queen Mother. "How dare you? How dare the All Heavens shop's master injure an immortal official of the heavenly court?" The Queen Mother roared and ordered, "Pagoda-bearing Li Jing and the 4 heavenly kings, lead 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals to capture the All Heavens shop's master and behead him in public. Since the host cultivation base has improved too quickly, the system will open the All Heavens city for the host's first training." Just as Chu Bei landed in front of the Water Curtain Cave with Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji, the system's voice rang in his mind. Chapter 328. Training? All Heaven City? When Chu Bei heard the system's voice, before he could react, the space-time wheel appeared. An irresistible suction force pulled him into the space-time wheel. The next moment, the scene before Chu Bei's eyes changed, and he came to a world full of chaos. Drifting aimlessly, Chu Bei found a city. To be precise, this was a city that was almost in ruins. There were dilapidated buildings everywhere, and there was no one in the city. Buzz. But when Chu Bei appeared above the city, there was a strange buzzing sound from the city below. Then, an irresistible suction pulled him into the city. Chu Bei had just landed in the city when a black shadow appeared strangely. It had 3 heads and 6 arms and looked like a beast. With a roar, the black shadow charged at Chu Bei. Chu Bei did not hesitate and raised his hand to meet it. Accompanied by an explosion, the black shadow shattered and transformed into a wisp of light that entered into Chu Bei's sea of consciousness. This is... Looking at the small blue light spot in his sea of consciousness, Chu Bei frowned, his eyes full of confusion. This blue light spot was obviously because he had killed the previous black shadow. According to the system's assessment, the strength of that black shadow was around level 10. Just as Chu Bei was thinking about what this blue light spot was, more and more black shadows appeared from the void and surrounded Chu Bei. Is this the so-called training? Looking at the dense and huge black shadows, Chu Bei's mouth twitched as he faced the enemy helplessly. On the other side, in the outside world, not long after Chu Bei entered the space-time wheel, a dense crowd of figures appeared above Huagua Mountain, covering the sky. The leader was the pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing and the 4 Heavenly Kings. Behind them were 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. Journey to the west, 100 years later. Host's first training has ended. Host has obtained the right to use a level 16 commodity. Host exits All Heaven City. In the All Heaven City, Chu Bei had no idea how much time had passed or how many tens of thousands of beasts he had killed, but when he finished killing the most recent wave, a trembling voice resounded in his mind. Can I finally leave? Chu Bei let out a long sigh when he heard the system voice. He had already become numb to the killing in the All Heaven City. Fortunately, he had discovered some of the secrets of the All Heaven City. The blue light spots obtained from killing the beast monsters had condensed into a blue liquid droplet in his sea of consciousness. As the system's voice faded away, the scene before Chu Bei's eyes changed. Looking around, this place was no longer Flower Fruit Mountain. Instead, it was a stretch of ruins. However, at the very center of the ruins stood a particularly luxurious hall. In the center of the hall hung a silver plaque, upon which the words All Heaven Shop were written in a dazzling golden font. To be more precise, this was a battlefield. Because the battle had yet to end, the flashing brilliance and deafening battle cries continued. On the battlefield, thousands of figures were guarding the luxurious hall. Even though the surrounding buildings had been reduced to rubble, the hall remained undamaged. Among the thousands of figures guarding the hall, there was no lack of non-human creatures. Among them, monkey-type creatures accounted for nearly a third. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that these figures, regardless of whether they were human cultivators, monkey-type creatures, or creatures of other races, had the same spiritual power fluctuations and auras as if they had cultivated the same immortal techniques. Looking at the people surrounding the hall, they were all wearing golden and silver armor and wielding the same long spears and sabers. The words Heavenly Court could be faintly seen on the back of their armor. Gao Xin, Sun Wujia, I advise you not to be stubborn. Your master has already been captured. What's the point of continuing to struggle? On the battlefield, a burly man leading the Heavenly Court army coldly looked at a human man and a huge monkey in front of the hall. That's right. Handing over the All Heavens Immortal Sutra is the wisest choice you've made. No matter what, after today, the All Heavens Shop will be completely erased from this world. Another Heavenly Court Divine General shouted coldly. The 2 of you leading the army have no right to say such things. The human man named Gao Xin snorted and clenched his right hand into a fist. A layer of golden light wrapped around the surface of his fist, within which a true dragon and fire phoenix could be vaguely seen. Roar. With an earth-shattering roar, Gao Xin soared into the air and instantly closed in on the leader of the Heavenly Court army with a terrifying punch. Fool! East Dipper Star official Su Hu roared. His armor flashed with demonic light as he met the attack with a long spear. Rumble. The two soon clashed. Dazzling brilliance overflowed in all directions as various spells emerged one after another. Huang Tianlu, let's fight. The monkey named Sun Wujie focused his gaze and swung a silver iron staff at the second leader of the Heavenly Court army. Today, the All-Heaven shop will be destroyed. West Dipper Star official Huang Tianlu's eyes glinted fiercely. He drew his sword from his waist and swept it at Sun Wujie like a divine rainbow. Kill. Kill these invading Heavenly Court dogs. Defend the All-Heavens shop to the death. That's right. We can't let these Heavenly Court dogs touch our shop. Following the battle between Gao Xin and East Dipper Star official Su Hu, Sun Wujie, and Huang Tianlu, the battle between the rest of the All-Heaven shop's disciples and the Heavenly Court soldiers intensified. Chu Bei stared blankly at the flying debris and the expanding cracks in the void as he walked through the battlefield. East and West Dipper Star official, the efficiency of the two of you is too low. Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji have been captured, but you still can't take down the All-Heaven shop. Don't you feel ashamed? At this moment, a shout came from the sky. Immediately after, ripples spread out, and a man with a face like a crab and a beard like copper wire slowly walked out of the pitch-black gap. He was 24 feet tall. He held a sword with runes engraved with the words Earth, Water, Fire, and Wind. Southern Heavenly King of Growth, Emo Liqing. Seeing the appearance of the newcomer, East Dipper Star official Su Hu, West Dipper Star official Huang Tianlu, and the heavenly soldiers hurriedly stopped fighting and bowed respectfully. As for Gao Xin, Sun Wujie, and the rest of the All-Heaven shop's disciples, they all looked grave and gloomy. They all looked at Emo Liqing vigilantly, as if they were facing a great enemy. Gao Xin, Sun Wujie, I'm here. Surrender. Emo Liqing's voice was cold. Where is the All-Heaven's immortal sutra? Protect the All-Heaven's shop to the death. As for the All-Heaven's immortal sutra, even if I die in battle, I won't let you get it. Gao San and Sun Wujie looked at each other with determination in their eyes. They were not afraid of death. Not only them, but all of the All-Heaven's shop's disciples on the battlefield looked determined. Even if they were in danger, they were still full of fighting spirit. Kill, Gao San shouted. His voice was like a flash flood, dull and vast, reverberating above the entire battlefield. In the next moment, a bronze cauldron covered in green rust appeared above his head. The cauldron was engraved with lifelike golden crows. The cauldron revealed its true form. Flames burned inside, and the ancient and mysterious symbols on the outside seemed to have a life of their own. As Gao Sen's cold voice fell, the bronze cauldron lit up, and a golden crow spread its wings and rushed out. Its entire body was golden, and it was incomparably fierce. As soon as the first golden crow flew out, the second golden crow followed closely behind. Its golden wings flapped, and a terrifying aura filled the air. The third golden crow flew out, and its golden eyes locked onto Shi Zhongtian. Its murderous aura was monstrous. Just like that, 6 golden crows flew out in succession and circled around the bronze cauldron. The copper cauldron was surrounded by the 6 golden crows, and like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon, it charged towards Emo Liqing. At the same time, the silver staff in Sun Wujie's hand danced in an orderly manner. Staff shadows overlapped in the sky like monstrous waves, layer by layer, and the aura became more and more terrifying. In the end, it was like a vast ocean surging toward Emo Liqing with an incomparably terrifying aura. Futile struggle. Emo Liqing's eyes were cold. Facing the bronze cauldron surrounded by 6 golden crows and the monstrous staff shadows, Emo Liqing's face did not have the slightest hint of fear. The green sword in his hand trembled. First, a black wind surged, and there were thousands of spears in the wind. Then, flames curled up, and golden snakes coiled in the flames. Chi. Emo Leeching swung his sword, and an ear-piercing sound filled the air. A wisp of sword light wrapped in flames swept out, and wherever it passed, black fog filled the air. In the distant sky, Missouri Leeching held the green sword in his hand. His entire body was emitting light, and he looked like a shining god of war. Buzz! The sword vibrated and shook the void, bringing with it terrifying patterns. The sword light emitted divine light, and carried with it the power to destroy the world as it went toward the bronze cauldron and the silver staff. Clang! The sound of metal colliding was crisp and melodious. Under the lingering sound, the group of heavenly soldiers closest to the cauldron held their heads with both hands and let out shrill screams as if their souls were being split apart. The All Heaven Shop's disciples were the same, and their faces were twisted in pain. The sword light collided with the bronze cauldron and the silver staff. Destroy! However, the stalemate was broken by Heavenly King Zhengzhang's roar. The sword light suddenly expanded, and the light became even more dazzling. A majestic force that seemed to have been magnified several times sent the bronze cauldron and the silver staff flying. Chi! The sword light tore through the void and continued forward. Gao San and Sun Wujie's pupils constricted as they looked at the sword light that was about to reach them. It was too late for them to dodge. However, just as they thought they were going to be cut in half by the sword light, a whistling sound rang in their ears, and a gust of wind blew toward them. In the next instant, both the ruins below and the sky fell silent. It was so quiet that even breathing could be heard. At this moment, the sword light suddenly stopped and turned into a rain of light that dissipated. The All Heaven Shop's disciples and the Heavenly Court's heavenly soldiers who were fighting on the battlefield seemed to be bound by an inexplicable force, and they stopped their attacks at the same time. In an instant, everything seemed to have stopped. In their line of sight, they could only see the slowly rising divine light that filled the sky, and the young man who was gradually becoming clearer in the divine light. Chapter 329. Bo, boss. You're back. On the battlefield, Gao San and Sun Wujie were stunned when they saw the young man's appearance. When they recovered from their daze, their mouths were wide open. Then, the two of them looked at each other. Their faces were filled with indescribable excitement. Did you hear what Senior Brother Gao and Senior Brother Sun said? They're calling the mysterious man who suddenly appeared boss. Heavens! Don't tell me he's the boss who disappeared not long after establishing the All Heaven Shop. This is unbelievable. I can't believe I'm able to see our boss in person in my lifetime. According to Master Ba Jie, the boss is a golden immortal. If it's really him, then we're safe. On the battlefield, the disciples of the All Heaven Shop stopped fighting one after another and focused their gazes on Chu Bei. Their eyes were filled with curiosity, joy, and a little anticipation. You're that little monkey? Chu Bei recognized Sun Wujie at a glance. He was the little monkey who stood out when he asked the monkeys to join the All Heaven Shop. Boss, I didn't expect you to recognize me. Sun Wujie quickly nodded and then kowtowed to Chu Bei. His nervous expression showed that he was honored. Chu Bei smiled and waved his hand to help Sun Wujie up. Then, his gaze fell on Gao Sun and his brows furrowed slightly. Boss, do you remember 100 years ago when you joined a family in the old Gao village? At that time, there was a girl in that family, and I'm that girl's son. Gao Sun looked at Chu Bei with great respect. When I was 6 years old, I followed my parents to Mount Huagua. Later, when Master Ba Jie learned that I came from the old Gao village, he took me in as his personal disciple. So you're that girl's son. Chu Bei was enlightened. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and his expression changed slightly. You said I've been gone for 100 years. Gao San and Sun Wujie looked at each other. After confirming with their eyes, they nodded at the same time and said, no more, no less, 100 years. Chu Bei took a deep breath. Tell me about the changes the All Heaven Shop has gone through in the 100 years since this seat left. Ever since you suddenly left that day, Sun Wujie organized his thoughts and began to narrate to Chu Bei in an orderly manner. As for Chu Bei, the more he listened, the angrier he became. In the end, a strong killing intent rose from his face. It turned out that not long after he disappeared, the pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li Jing and the 4 heavenly kings led 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals to Huagua Mountain. Pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li Jing was ordered by the Queen Mother to capture the owner of All Heaven's shop. He had been guarding Huagua Mountain for 49 days, but he still hadn't appeared. In the end, in order to complete his mission, he used the pagoda to destroy the Flower Fruit Mountain. The Water Curtain Cave was destroyed, and the All Heaven Store was destroyed. However, although Mount Huagua was destroyed, Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the monkeys were safe and sound. In order to pass down the legacy of the All Heaven Store, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji established a new All Heaven Store in Glorybound City, not far from Huagua Mountain. At the start, the All Heaven Store only had the 2 of them, a group of monkeys from Huagua Mountain and a group of people from Yusang. But as Sun Wukong's cultivation increased, he used a large sum of money from the Tome of Wealth to exchange for a cultivation technique called the All Heavens Immortal Sutra. Because of the All Heavens Immortal Sutra, the All Heavens Store only needed 10 years to gain some fame in Aolai. Later on, the high officials and nobles of Aolai would fight to buy this treasure, and the monkeys in the store would also become stronger and stronger as a result of cultivating the All Heavens Immortal Sutra. Other cultivation techniques might take 5 to 10 years to go from spirit focus to spirit acceptance. But in the All Heavens Store, as long as one had the money, it would only take 3 months, 1 month, or even less. In the 60th year, the All Heavens Store had gained some fame in the Dongsheng Divine Continent. But at that time, the All Heavens Store had not attracted the attention of the Heavenly Court. It was only in recent years that the All Heavens Store's reputation began to spread to the Aparagodania continent, Nambu continent, and Uttarkuru continent, that the Heavenly Court took notice of this power. When they learned that it was called the All Heavens Store, the Heavenly Court immediately sent immortal officials down to investigate. But now, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji had both reached the Grand Unity Scattered Immortal Realm. What was even more frightening was that although they were both primordial unity disbanded celestials, they both possessed a mysterious ability that allowed them to fight with ordinary primordial unity golden celestials. In the entire immortal realm, there were not many Grand Unity golden immortals, and most of them were in seclusion to comprehend the Tao. Because of this, the Heavenly Court had not been able to take down the All Heavens Store for a long time. But recently, several veteran Grand Unity Golden Immortals of the Heavenly Court had come out of seclusion and joined forces to defeat Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji. After that, the Heavenly Army and Heavenly Generals surrounded the All Heavens Store. You are the owner of the All Heavens Store who fled without a fight 100 years ago? In the sky, Demon Li Qing's cold gaze fell on Chu Bei, his voice chilling. Fled without a fight? With just the 2 of you? Chu Bei turned to look at Demon Li Qing and sneered, his words full of contempt. It was also at this moment that everyone on the battlefield suddenly felt their bodies loosen, and the invisible force binding them disappeared. Although they had regained their freedom, the 2 sides did not immediately start fighting. Instead, they all looked at Chu Bei. Since you dare to show up, I'll take you down today. Demon Li Qing narrowed his eyes and glanced coldly at Chu Bei, his body emitting a blue light. At the same time, the green sword in his hand vibrated, and 4 orchids condensed at the tip of the sword, resonating with the 4 runes on the sword. As Demon Li Qing shouted, the 4 orchids intertwined to form a ferocious black panther. Roar! The black panther roared with a terrifying aura. In a flash, the black panther appeared in front of Chu Bei. However, just as the ferocious bloody mouth was about to bite Chu Bei's head, there was a buzzing sound in the void around the black panther. Immediately after, there was a crisp cracking sound, and the black panther formed by the 4 orchids was inexplicably distorted, exploded, and dissipated. Demon Li Qing frowned slightly as he looked at the black panther that disappeared into thin air. When he looked at Chu Bei again, his gaze was a little more dignified. However, just as he held the sword hilt with both hands and was about to launch another attack, he felt an invisible force cut through the void and entered his body. At this moment, his body seemed to be extremely heavy, and he could not mobilize the divine power in his body. A mere Tai disbanded celestial dares to call himself a king? Who gave you the confidence? A calm and indifferent voice floated in the sky with a hint of mockery and contempt. Demon Li Qing felt a chill in his heart when he heard this cold voice. However, before he could react, all his flesh, blood, cells, and even his primordial spirit and soul were squeezed at the same time. Suddenly, a painful wail resounded in the sky, followed by a loud bang. This, impossible, East Dipper Star official Su Hu, West Dipper Star official Huang Tianlu, and thousands of celestial soldiers were first stunned when they saw Demon Li Qing explode. Then, their expressions froze, and their faces were filled with fear. How could this be? Why did the Heavenly King die all of a sudden? The celestial soldiers recovered from their daze and looked at Chu Bei in shock. They could not believe what they had just seen. Demon Li Qing, the Heavenly King of Growth, was one of the 4 Heavenly Kings of the Heavenly Court and a Tai disbanded celestial. However, in just a few seconds, his primordial spirit and body were shattered at the same time. Is this the shop owner who disappeared for 100 years? He's so powerful. He killed the Heavenly King of Growth in an instant. The shop owner is back. Our all-heaven shop is going to welcome glory. On the ruins below, the disciples of the all-heaven shop came to their senses one after another. They looked at Chu Bei's back and cheered with even more admiration in their eyes. He's still so powerful. Gao San and Sun Wujia looked at each other. After looking in the direction where Demon Li Qing disappeared, they looked at Chu Bei at the same time and murmured. To them, Demon Li Qing, who had become a Tai scattered immortal, was an insurmountable mountain, a supreme existence that they could not resist. However, in front of their shop owner, Demon Li Qing was as insignificant as an ant. From the beginning to the end, they did not even see their shop owner make a move before Demon Li Qing was killed. You, what did you do to the Heavenly King? Sensing the gazes, the East and West Dipper Star officials looked at Chu Bei nervously. Their voices were trembling, and their faces were filled with fear. Chu Bei did not say anything. He just smiled at Su Hu, Huang Tianlu, and the celestial soldiers. Then, he waved his hand. A wave of ripples blew past like a gust of wind. In the next moment, the celestial soldiers, including the East and West Dipper Star officials, screamed in pain with twisted expressions. Bang, bang, bang. Amidst the explosive sounds, scarlet blood rained down from the sky, mixed with disgusting minced meat. They're all dead. That's great. All hail the shop owner. Looking at the celestial soldiers exploding in the sky, the disciples of the all-heaven shop were stunned at first. Then, they cheered wildly in excitement. Shop owner, Master and the others have entered the celestial court. I wonder how they're doing now. At this moment, Gao San and Sun Wujia came to Chu Bei's side and bowed, their eyes filled with worry. You dare to bully the all-heaven shop when I'm not here. Today, I'll lead you to flatten the celestial court. Chu Bei raised his head to look at the sky. With a wave of his sleeve, an incomparably terrifying and violent aura soared into the clouds. Although his voice was not loud, it shook the hearts of every disciple of the all-heaven shop, carrying an indescribable majesty. Now, he had used the 16th grade goods right to use again. Flatten the celestial court. Hearing Chu Bei's words, the disciples of the all-heaven shop felt their blood boil, and their fighting spirit soared. Before their uniform roars could echo, a wisp of golden light carried them and disappeared into the void. At the same time, the celestial court. Compared to the battlefield in front of the all-heaven shop, the celestial court was represented by the jade pool of the Queen Mother and the central heaven gate, creating 2 completely different scenes. In the jade pool of the Queen Mother, several hundred fairies dressed in gauze of various colors were busy going to and from the peach garden. Today was the Queen Mother's birthday. A woman sat at the head of the jade pool. She wore a luxurious robe inlaid with gold and silver, and wore a 9-song purple and gold crown. She held a 2-meter-long scepter inlaid with countless gems. She had fair skin and an almost perfect face, making her look so different from the rest. In particular, the invisible nobility and holiness exuding from his body caused people to involuntarily prostrate themselves in worship. The Queen Mother, the master of the Jade Pool, the Jade Emperor's partner, and an existence above all in the celestial court. Those two brats from the all-heaven shop in the lower realm should be dealt with soon. Start picking the peaches. The Queen Mother spoke indifferently, her every movement exuding the aura of a superior. Yes, your majesty. The fairies kowtowed and left. On the other side, outside the central heaven gate, 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were on standby. Their eyes were all fixed on the immortal slaying platform. Immortal chi swirled around the immortal slaying platform, and true dragons and divine phoenixes danced in the air. Two pitch-black chains appeared out of nowhere and hung above the immortal dais, wrapping around one end of the immortal slaying axe. The axe was made of an unknown material and shone with silver light. Mysterious runes were engraved on the axe's body, and it exuded a terrifying aura. Below the immortal slaying axe, two figures sat cross-legged on the chopping board. Their eyes were closed and their faces were expressionless. One of them looked like a demon monkey with a golden staff hanging by his side. The other had the head of a pig and the body of a human, and a nine-toothed rake hanging by his side. If one looked closely, both Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji had a purple bracelet on their heads. It seemed that these purple bracelets were the ones that were imprisoning them. Zhu Beiji, to think that you used to be the canopy marshal who commanded the 80,000 Heavenly River Navy, but now you've become a member of the All-Heaven Shop. Seeing that we used to work together, do you have anything to say before you die? Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing's cold gaze landed on Zhu Beiji. Behind him stood Eastern Heavenly King Chigua Mo Li Ho, Western Heavenly King Virupaxa Mo Li Hong, and Northern Heavenly King Polylor Mo Li Hai. Zhu Beiji opened his eyes and said, "Let go of the All-Heaven Shop's disciples. Spare no one from the All-Heaven Shop." Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King shook his head. "This is the order of the Heavenly Queen Mother. Do you feel anything?" Emo Liching's aura has disappeared. At this moment, Eastern Heavenly King Chigua Mo Li Ho, Western Heavenly King Virupaxa Mo Li Hong, and Northern Heavenly King Polylor Mo Li Hai looked at each other. How could this be? Could it be that he's already? Emo Li Ho frowned, and his expression turned ugly. Although the four heavenly kings were not telepathic, they could still sense each other. However, at this moment, they could not sense Emo Liching's presence. Impossible. Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji are both here. The rest of the All-Heaven Shop's disciples are no match for Emo Liching. Emo Li Hong and Emo Li Hai looked at each other and said, "My lord, someone has offended the Immortality Peach Garden." Just as Emo Li Ho and the others were feeling uneasy, a purple-clad fairy flew over from afar. She looked flustered. Chapter 330. How dare you? Who dares to offend the Peach Garden? Have you all forgotten the rules of the Celestial Court? The person who shouted was dressed in a celestial robe with stars revolving behind him. Lord Star Monarch. They don't seem to be from the Celestial Court. The fairy in purple immediately bowed and said respectfully, "Lord Star Monarch, let us go and capture these impudent people." The Dhritarashtra, Emo Li Ho, stepped forward and cupped his fists. "No need, I'll go personally." The 5 Stars Monarch turned into a divine rainbow and left. Who are you people? Aren't you afraid of the Queen Mother's punishment? In the Peach Garden, a man with a thunderous mouth and a pair of wings hovered in the air and looked at the figure above the peach tree excitedly. Chu Bei ignored Lei Jinzi and continued to look around. The Celestial Court was shrouded in a terrifying, mysterious force. Even his divine sense could only sense 100 miles around him. As far as the eye could see, there were a total of 3,600 peach trees in the garden, and they were divided into 3 grades. It was said that the 1,200 peach trees at the front ripened once every 3,000 years, and people who ate them would become immortals. The 1,200 peach trees in the middle ripened once every 6,000 years, and people who ate them would ascend to immortality. The 1,200 peach trees at the back ripened once every 9,000 years, and people who ate them would live as long as the heavens and the earth. Although this rumor sounded exaggerated, it was undeniable that the peach of immortality had an indescribable effect. The Peach King was sold in the All-Heavens shopping city, and he had even exchanged for one. I didn't expect that today would be the day of the peach banquet. Chu Bei looked at the gathered fairies calmly and said, "Since I'm passing by, I'll naturally take these peaches of immortality." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Bei waved his sleeve. In an instant, the 1,200 peach trees at the front of the group rose from the ground and flew into Chu Bei's small world. "No, you can't do this. The Queen Mother will blame us." Looks of horror appeared on the faces of the celestial immortal maidens as they stared at the vanishing peach trees in the front row. However, before their terrified voices could fade away, the 1,200 immortal peach trees in the middle and back row also disappeared. "We're finished. We're finished." In an instant, all the peach trees in the peach garden disappeared. All of the celestial immortals looked as if they had lost their souls. "Master Lei Junzi, please help us get the peach tree back." The fairies looked at Lei Junzi with pleading eyes. Lei Junzi glanced at the countless heavenly general corpses in front of him and hesitated. This mysterious person of unknown origin in front of him had an exceedingly high cultivation base. He was definitely not someone a golden immortal like him could deal with. "How dare you? How dare you steal the peach tree?" Just as Lei Junzi was hesitating, a loud rumbling sound rang out and a huge star appeared above the peach garden. Lord Five-Star Sovereign. Lei Junzi wasn't the only one who was overjoyed when he saw the figure on the vast planet. Lord Taibai Jinxing. He killed several heavenly generals. "Please take action." Lei Junzi looked at the Five-Star Sovereign respectfully. He was not worried that the Five-Star Sovereign would not be a match for the man of unknown origin. After all, he was a primordial unity golden immortal. "Where are my disciples?" Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the Five-Star Sovereign calmly. "Are you the owner of the All-Heaven shop?" The Five-Star Sovereign's expression changed slightly when he heard Chu Bei's words. He glanced at the disciples of the All-Heaven shop below, and his expression turned serious. 100 years ago, he had heard that the owner of the All-Heaven shop had defeated Guanyin Bodhisattva of Buddhism. "Where are they?" Chu Bei said the same words again, but this time, his voice was much lower and his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. "If you can get out of here, go to the Central Heaven Gate and find them. However, even if you win, I'm afraid there'll be 2 corpses by now." The Five-Star Sovereign snorted coldly when he felt the pressure enveloping him. Then, with him as the center, the sky above the peach garden changed completely. It looked like an inner world, but more like a small star field. However, the stars were dim and lifeless. The Five-Star Sovereign stood in this small star field. His blood chi was like an ocean as purple starlight wrapped around his body. He was like the ruler of the stars patrolling the area. "Come and fight." The Five-Star Sovereign looked at Chu Bei and shouted. The sound wave shattered several stars behind him. At the same time, his body expanded and stood in the star field like a god. His black hair was like a galaxy and his eyes were like lightning. "Boss, be careful." This was the first time the disciples of the All-Heaven shop had seen the terror of a primordial unity golden immortal. They were shocked and looked at Chu Bei with worry. Chu Bei did not say anything. He still looked at the Five-Star Sovereign calmly without any emotion on his face. He took a step forward and arrived at the galaxy where the Five-Do Star-Lord was. A huge illusory image appeared behind him. The divine peak in the illusory image was majestic and majestic. Clouds swirled around it and purple light flowed. The most eye-catching thing was the golden sea of sand. When such a phenomenon appeared in the star field, the stars seemed incomparably small. Five-Star Sovereign, suppress. Looking at the strange phenomenon behind Chu Bei, the Five-Star Sovereign furrowed his brows. Then, he let out a loud shout that shook the entire star region. With a buzzing sound, 5 flying swords flew out of his body. The tip of each flying sword carried a miniature star. When the 5 flying swords connected with each other, it was as if 5 worlds were integrated together. They shot toward Chu Bei at the same time, wanting to swallow him. They had infinite divine power. Chu Bei was expressionless. He raised his hand and slapped forward under the shocked gazes of the all-heavens shop's disciples and the fairies below. Although the slap was simple and direct, the aura that seeped out was enough to suffocate people. It was a kind of lofty spirit that said, "If I can't do it, who else can?" In front of the central heaven gate, pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing glanced in the direction of the peach garden. When he heard the earth-shattering sound, his expression changed. "Brotherly, I have a bad feeling. Why don't we start the slash earlier?" Dhritarashtra Mo Liso suggested. "Okay." Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing glanced at Mo Liso. As soon as he finished speaking, the two pitch-black chains hanging in the sky shook instantly, bringing with them a terrifying and mysterious sound. Rumble, rumble. On the immortal slaying platform, the immortal slaying axe swayed and fell with a trembling sound. The axe blade flashed with silver light, and the dragon roared and the phoenix cried. The mysterious runes engraved on the axe seemed to come alive, carrying with them the aura of the great Tao. The Rui Jingu Bang and Nine-Toothed Rake automatically protected their master and met the immortal slaying axe. However, at the moment of collision, the two divine weapons were sent flying, not slowing down the speed of the immortal slaying axe at all. Clang! The immortal slaying axe landed on Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji's heads, bringing with it a metallic sound. "Is this your eternal golden body?" At this moment, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji's bodies had turned golden. At a closer look, one could vaguely see that the surface of their bodies seemed to be covered with a layer of transparent golden gauze. Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji were silent. This was the defense given to them by their proxy rings. Even the immortal slaying axe couldn't kill the two of them in one hit. Seeing the scene on the immortal slaying platform, the heavenly soldiers, including the pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing and the Dhritarashtra Mo Liso, were all shocked and in disbelief. The immortal slaying platform had once killed a Grand Unity Golden Immortal with one hit. However, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji were not Grand Unity Golden Immortals yet, but they had blocked the immortal slaying blade's first strike. Second strike. Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing shouted. The immortal slaying axe was lifted and brought down again. Compared to the previous time, the runes on the axe flew out directly and gathered on the blade of the axe. The aura of the axe became even more terrifying. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound rang out. The immortal slaying axe came down and split the sky. The aftershock caused the 100,000 heavenly soldiers' blood to boil and their bodies to tremble. Even the immortal slaying platform, which was made of the same material as the immortal slaying axe, trembled and showed signs of cracking. How is this possible? The two of them managed to block the second strike. The defensive power of their eternal golden body is too terrifying. I just don't know where they learned this golden body from. Look carefully, it's not just the eternal golden body this time. The rings in their hands are also emitting a strange energy wave. If it weren't for Tai Zhenren and the two purple bracelets left by Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to take them down. Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing, Dhritarashtra Mo Liso, and the other heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were even more shocked. On the immortal slaying platform, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji looked at each other and then looked at the glowing proxy rings in their hands. Although they managed to block the immortal slaying axe's second strike under the protection of the proxy rings, they were still severely injured. At this moment, their faces were pale and blood was flowing from their mouths. Their auras were very chaotic. Good. I'm interested in your defensive technique. At this moment, the void in front of pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing rippled and an old man with a goatee and a horsetail whisk in his hand walked out of it. Greetings, Tai Zhenren. When the old man in the green robe appeared, pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing, Dhritarashtra Heavenly King Li Shou, Virapaksa Heavenly King Imoli Hong, Polylor Heavenly King Imoli Hai, and 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals immediately bowed and greeted him. Tai Zhenren nodded slightly at the immortal officials and then looked back at Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji on the immortal slaying platform. Let me see how you're going to block the third strike. As his cold voice fell, Tai Zhenren waved his hand and shot out a ray of divine light onto the immortal slaying axe. In the next moment, the immortal slaying axe was raised again. Rumble. This time, the runes gathered on the immortal slaying axe's blade turned black, and even the silver-white axe was dyed black. Not only that, but the surrounding void also cracked open. The cracks were filled with lightning, and all kinds of strange phenomena appeared. The axe vibrated, and an incomparably terrifying aura spread out. Under this aura, even the immortal slaying platform started to crack. Chapter 331. Junior brother. We have company on the way. Yes, we won't be alone. If there's reincarnation, we'll kill our way to the heavenly court. It's a pity that we couldn't complete the mission Master gave us. The All Heavens Shop's legacy in this world has been destroyed in our hands. Looking at the black immortal slaying axe above their heads, Goku and Zhu Beiji looked at each other and shook their heads at the same time. A bitter smile appeared on their faces, and their eyes were filled with regret and unwillingness. Fall. Tai Zhenren waved the horsetail whisk in his hand, and the black immortal slaying axe came crashing down. Almost at the same time, the proxy rings on Goku and Zhu Beiji's hands emitted the most beautiful light. However, this time, the proxy ring's energy seemed to be used to protect themselves. Let's see how you're going to block it this time. Tai Zhenren sneered as he looked at Goku and Zhu Beiji with disdain. However, just as the black immortal slaying axe was about to land on Goku and Zhu Beiji's heads, the void suddenly froze. A mysterious ripple surrounded by dense fog spread out from afar, and the speed of the immortal slaying axe's descent became incomparably slow. At this moment, the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, including the pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing and the Dhritarashtra Heavenly King Emo Li Ho, seemed to have sensed something. They all looked up in the direction of the Peach Garden. They saw a small galaxy crashing down from the sky, and they could vaguely see all kinds of stars exploding within it. Boom! That small star field accurately smashed into the immortal slaying platform. In an instant, the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals felt their heads buzzing. The weaker ones immediately bled from their 7 orifices, and their vision turned dark. What's going on? When the light returned, pairs of eyes fell on the immortal slaying platform again. Immediately, they were all horrified. Their eyes were filled with astonishment, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Under the bombardment of that small star field, the immortal beheading stage was directly shattered into pieces of rubble. The 2 pitch-black chains hanging from the sky were broken into several pieces, and the black immortal beheading axe was split into 2 halves. The strange runes gradually dissipated. It's the 5 stars, Lord. The small galaxy gradually dissipated, revealing a figure lying on the ground. When he saw the figure's appearance, the closest heavenly general immediately exclaimed. Then, he quickly appeared in front of the other party. However, just as the heavenly general was about to help the 5 stars sovereign up, a terrifying scene happened. The 5 stars sovereign's originally intact body actually began to split apart, turning into specks of light that dissipated between heaven and earth until the specks of light disappeared into nothingness. What is happening? Lord 5 Star Sovereign, how could it be that he's dead? Impossible. His Excellency is a primordial unity golden immortal who has been famous for a long time. It is said that he is only 1 step away from becoming a disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. Oh right, didn't he go to the Peach Garden to punish the intruders? Could it be? The 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals looked in the direction where the 5 stars sovereign had turned into nothingness. Just as they were guessing, their bodies felt an inexplicable sharp chill. Then, one by one, they instinctively looked up. There, golden sand floated in the sky, and several figures gradually became clear. The person in the lead was a young man about 20 years old. That's someone from the All Heavens shop? Impossible. How could they be here? Based on the time, they should have been killed by the Eastern and Western Star Duels and Heavenly King Xingzhang. Could it be that they're the ones who offended the Peach Garden? Impossible. Doesn't that mean the 5 stars sovereign died in the hands of the all-heaven shop's people? The 5 stars sovereign is a veteran primordial unity golden immortal. Even Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji were no match for him. Who else in the all-heaven shop could kill him? Look, who's that leader? Looking at the sudden appearance of the divine light, the 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals recognized the newcomers. They were immediately shocked, and a commotion broke out everywhere. They could not believe that the all-heaven shop's disciples could escape from the hands of heavenly King Xingzhang and even offend the Peach Garden to kill the 5 stars sovereign. Master, are you all right? 2 figures flew out of the yellow sand. Sun Wujie and Gao Xin knelt in front of Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji respectively, their voices filled with deep worry. At this moment, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji were not in the mood to pay attention to Sun Wujie and Gao Senator. Their eyes were firmly fixed on the young man in front of the all-heaven shop's disciples. Unknowingly, their eyes began to redden. Their expressions also changed from the initial daze to joy when they came to their senses, and then to explosive excitement. Master! Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji trembled slightly. They flew to Chu Bei and knelt in the air with a plop. Their trembling voices were filled with deep longing. You've worked hard for the past 100 years. Chu Bei smiled and waved his hand to lift Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji. Because of the efforts of these 2 disciples, the all-heaven shop's prestige in the West Realm had exceeded 40 points, even surpassing many sects and factions with a history of 10,000 years. As soon as Chu Bei finished speaking, 2 streams of light fell on the purple bracelets on Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji's heads. Crack! With a crisp sound, the purple bracelets shattered, turned into a rain of light, and disappeared. It was also at this moment that the shackles on Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji's bodies seemed to disappear. Their violent auras suddenly spread out. Swoosh! 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 The Rui Jingu Bang and 9-toothed rake returned to Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji's hands. Thank you, Master, for helping us. Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji were grateful. Then they turned to the pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li Jing and the 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals. Their monstrous anger burst forth, and their aura even caused a strange phenomenon. However, they did not immediately attack. Instead, they walked behind Chu Bei, as if waiting for his instructions. Did you hear that? Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji actually called that person Master. Could it be that he's the owner of the all-heaven shop? Didn't he disappear for 100 years? Why is he suddenly back? The 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals fixed their gazes on Chu Bei. After guessing his identity, their mouths were agape, and their expressions were wooden. Dhritarashtra Imo Lis Ho, Virupaksha Imo Li Hong, and Polylor Imo Li Hai glanced at Chu Bei, and then at each other. Their eyes were filled with disbelief, and they vaguely understood something. No wonder Imo Li Qing's aura had disappeared. No wonder the disciples of the all-heaven shop were here. It was all because the owner of the all-heaven shop, who had disappeared for 100 years, had returned. The 5-star Star-Lord's death also made sense. Although the other party was a veteran primordial unity golden immortal, the owner of the all-heaven shop was someone who had defeated Guanyin Bodhisattva. 100 years ago, were you the one who destroyed Flowerfruit Mountain when I was not around? Chu Bei's gaze shifted to pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li Jing. His voice was incomparably calm, without the slightest hint of emotion. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, Li Jing frowned, but did not reply. He only threw the exquisite golden pagoda out. Suppress! Li Jing shouted. The exquisite golden pagoda, which was only 10 meters tall, expanded wildly. In the blink of an eye, it was dozens of meters tall, like a real 9-story pagoda. The pagoda shone brightly. The bottom of the pagoda was like an endless abyss, releasing a soul-stirring aura. However, before the exquisite golden pagoda with its terrifying aura reached the people of the all-heaven shop, Chu Bei's eyes narrowed, and a beam of light shot out from his eyes. Bang! With a loud bang and a burst of light, the huge, exquisite golden pagoda exploded under the beam of light. The remaining power of the beam blasted pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li Jing. With a muffled bang, the latter was sent flying. His face instantly turned pale, and he spat out blood. So powerful. Is this the strength of the owner of the all-heaven shop? He didn't even move. With just a beam of light, he destroyed pagoda-bearing Heavenly King's pagoda and seriously injured him. It's said that the pagoda was taught by Taoist Randang, the great immortal of the Chanism. I didn't expect it to be so weak in front of the owner of the all-heaven shop. Looking at the pagoda that had shattered into several fragments and Li Jing, who was sent flying, the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals looked at Chu Bei with even more fear and fear. Attacking a junior, isn't that a little too much? Just as Chu Bei's eyes flashed coldly again, Perfected Tai waved his horsetail whisk. After catching Li Jing, he looked at Chu Bei calmly. Then why did you attack us back then? Before Chu Bei could speak, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji berated furiously. If it wasn't for all of you old fellows, then how could Li Jing, Mo Lis Ho, and the others possibly capture all of us? Perfected Tai's face turned ugly when he heard that. Chu Bei looked at Perfected Tai with a playful smile and said mockingly, "Now, do you still think I'm going overboard by bullying these juniors? Do you really think you're a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal?" Facing Chu Bei's disdainful gaze, Perfected Tai snorted coldly. With a point of his finger, he opened up an independent battlefield in the distant sky. To be precise, this was also a star domain, but it was far larger than the star domain that the 5 Stars Lord had opened up. There were a total of 9 levels in the Zenith Heaven Scattered Immortal Realm. Each level was a threshold. Guanyin Bodhisattva's cultivation was at the 8th level, while Perfected Tai's cultivation was at the 2nd level. What's the point of being so? Chu Bei took a step forward and appeared in the star domain in the distant sky. After saying that, Chu Bei lowered his head and looked at Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji below. He smiled and said, "Why? Do you really want me to help you deal with these little guys?" Hearing that, Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji looked at each other and understood what Chu Bei meant. They shouted at the same time and held the Rui Jingu Bang and the Nine-Toothed Rake respectively. With violent energy, they attacked Li Jing, Mo Lis Ho, and the others. "Boss is back. Today is the day we wash away our shame," Gao Sen and Sun Wujie shouted. Then, they led tens of thousands of disciples of the All Heavens shop to kill the 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals. Rumble. In almost an instant, the outside of the central heaven gate was in chaos, forming a battlefield of intense killing. Chapter 332. Ever since Master created the All Heavens shop, we've been living peacefully in Flowerfruit Mountain and never caused any trouble. Yet, you treat us as a thorn in your side. Today, Master is back. Let's see how you'll suppress us. On the battlefield, Sun Wukong's eyes were cold, and his words were cold. With that, Sun Wukong's body glowed with golden light. Every time the Rui Jingu Bang slammed down, there would be miserable screams. Li Jing, Mo Lis Ho, and the other heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals had ugly expressions as they faced Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji's attacks. Whether it was the All Heaven shop's disciples or the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, they did not forget to pay attention to the battlefield in the stellar domain. They all knew that those 2 figures were the key to deciding the outcome of this battle. I'm very curious. Where did your sect come from? I don't believe that you can cultivate to this level alone. Tai Zhenren narrowed his eyes, as if he wanted to see through Chu Bei. Chu Bei looked at Tai Zhenren calmly and did not respond. He only extended his hand and slapped forward. In an instant, the stellar domain trembled as a rippling giant hand swept toward Tai Zhenren. The giant hand seemed to contain a boundless, mysterious force. Everywhere it passed, the stars seemed to have suffered heavy blows and pressure, and they exploded with a bang. "Fight!" Tai Zhenren shouted and swung the horsetail whisk in his hand. As the horsetail whisk flew, it turned into a 7-colored Milky Way and blasted toward Chu Bei with the aura of the immortal Tao. It wanted to pierce through the rippling giant hand that carried a terrifying power. Boom! The rippling giant hand and the 7-colored Milky Way collided. Instantly, the stellar domain trembled violently. The sound shook the heavens and spread throughout the heavenly court. Who dares to cause trouble in the heavenly court? That's Tai Zhenren. Who's fighting with him? Heavens, there's actually someone who dares to provoke Tai Zhenren? He's a supreme existence who has been in seclusion for countless years and only came out recently. That person is a little unfamiliar. Could he be a wandering cultivator who was just recruited? How is that possible? Tai Zhenren entered the zenith heavenly realm thousands of years ago. Which wandering cultivator do you think can cultivate to this level? Several powerful immortal officials in Celestial Court were alarmed by the loud explosion. Among them were military Star Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, Erlang Shun Yangjian, Tai Guilili, Zhongli Quan, Zhang Guolao, Lu Dongbin, and Celestial Maiden He. The celestial officials weren't the only ones who were alarmed. The All-Heaven Shop's disciples and celestial soldiers who were fighting fiercely in front of the central heaven gate all stopped fighting and turned their attention to the star field above. Meanwhile, in the jade pool of the Queen Mother, the hundreds of celestial maidens in gauze robes shuddered upon hearing this inexplicable boom, and they all stopped what they were doing. Seated at the head of the table, the Queen Mother furrowed her brows. Her luxurious golden robe with silver patterns emitted a buzzing sound. Then, she waved the scepter inlaid with countless gems in her hand. In an instant, the battle in the distant star field appeared in the sky above the jade pool. Today is Her Highness' birthday. How could someone dare to cause such a ruckus? It seems to be Tai Zhenren. Who is the other person? Are they sparring? Reporting to Her Highness, something big has happened in the peach garden. Someone has stolen all the peaches. No, it's not just the peaches, but the 3,600 peach trees have been uprooted as well. At this moment, a celestial maiden flew over from afar in a panic and knelt before the Queen Mother. How dare you? Who did it? The Queen Mother rose to her feet, anger rising on her almost perfect face. The purple-clad celestial maiden trembled and said in a trembling voice, "This servant doesn't know his background. He's very powerful and even killed the 5-star sovereign. I only know that he's wearing a long green robe and looks to be in his 20s. Enough." Before the purple-clad celestial maiden could finish speaking, the Queen Mother interrupted her with a cold snort. "Is it him?" The purple-clad celestial maiden looked in the direction the Queen Mother was pointing at and noticed the battle in the star field above the jade pool. When she saw Chu Bei's appearance, her body trembled. "It's him. It's him. It's him." "I know. Continue with your work. Prepare the other immortal fruit wine," the Queen Mother said indifferently. Queen Mother of the West said softly. Her every move was filled with the aura of a superior. In particular, the formless nobility and holiness exuding from her made people want to worship her. At this moment, although the battle in front of the central heaven gate had subsided, the atmosphere was getting more and more tense. This was because more and more martial gods were rushing over, including Neza and the dragon kings of the 4 seas. Boom! Another loud sound came from the Starfield battlefield. The stalemate was broken, and the horsetail whisk that had turned into a 7-colored galaxy was sent flying. 9th level? Tai Zhenren took back the horsetail whisk and looked at the cracks on it. When he looked at Chu Bei again, there was more fear in his eyes. Although this was only a simple test, it was enough for him to judge Chu Bei's strength. The Tai horsetail whisk was his life weapon, and he had refined it for countless years. Although it was not the strongest thing in the world, it was not something that an ordinary disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven could break, let alone destroy it. However, the owner of the All-Heaven Shop had done it. Chu Bei still did not answer Tai Zhenren's question. It seemed that he did not want to talk to him at all. He just casually threw out a punch to suppress his opponent. Unlike the previous rippling palm, this punch directly enveloped a 7-colored sword radiance. The sword radiance trembled as if it had channeled all the power of the stars in the star field. It covered the star river and instantly appeared in front of Tai Zhenren. In the jade pool, looking at the trembling sword radiance in the punch, the Queen Mother's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Those disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven who had been in seclusion for thousands of years, sensed the aura contained in the punch. They all frowned and looked dignified. Tai ate changes of all things. Tai Junren shouted. His expression was very serious as he held the horsetail whisk with both hands. At this moment, his body and the horsetail whisk bloomed with immortal light at the same time. The two seemed to blend together. Behind him, 8 different visions appeared. There were dragons and phoenixes dancing, the Milky Way hanging down, and mountains and rivers annihilating. Tai Junren went forward. Rumble. The punch intersected, and the 8 visions merged together under Tai Junren's lead. The two collided. In an instant, huge black holes appeared in the star field one after another. In the deafening buzzing sound, they released a terrifying aura that frightened people's souls. The dazzling intersecting light directly deprived the vision of the disciples of the celestial shop and the 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals. Only those disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven could see what was happening in the star-field battlefield. He lost. Tai Junren lost. After the disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, who had awakened from their seclusion, saw the situation in the star-field battlefield, their expressions suddenly froze with disbelief. In the center of the dazzling collision, the 8 visions behind Tai Junren were all shattered by the punch. With a crisp sound, the Tai horsetail whisk was directly shattered into powder, and Tai Junren himself was also sent flying by this majestic force, bombarding a star. In this tremor, Tai Junren's primordial spirit almost left his body. Tai real body. After stabilizing his body, Tai Junren looked at Chu Bei with a grave expression. With a long roar, the hazy immortal light outside Tai Junren's body suddenly turned purple. His aura rose again, and the battle aura around him surged. What is the origin of this owner of the celestial shop? Why have I never heard of him before? It seems that I have missed a lot in these years of seclusion. I didn't expect his strength to be so strong. He actually forced Tai Junren to use this move. It is said that there are many strange goods in the celestial shop. Many of them are of unknown origin and have never been seen before. One after another, the disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, who had awakened from their seclusion, were all surprised and analyzed the situation in the star-field battlefield. Meteor quake. Looking at Tai Junren, who seemed to have evolved, Chu Bei's emotions did not fluctuate at all. He raised his right hand and slapped down for the 3rd time. However, this time, there was a black halo spinning wildly in his palm. Under this palm, it was as if the sky had collapsed. Fight! Tai Junren shouted loudly. His essence, chi, and spirit rose to the extreme, and the purple light around him shot into the sky. At this moment, Tai Junren's entire body turned into a purple sharp blade, as if his blood and chi were burning. He faced Chu Bei's black halo head-on. Dong! Another earth-shattering collision. The stars exploded, and the Milky Way flowed backward. However, the stalemate lasted for less than 2 seconds before Tai Junren let out a shrill scream. Within the black halo, palm-sized immortal stones were madly absorbed into the purple sharp blade. With a rumble, the purple sharp blade collapsed and turned back into Tai Junren's appearance. Looking closely, Tai Junren's body and even his primordial spirit, which was about to leave his body, were distorted, as if they were being squeezed by some kind of irresistible supreme force. Bang! Finally, Tai Junren's body exploded amidst his wails. At the same time, several palm-sized immortal stones flew out. Clearly, these immortal stones with terrifying power were the source of Tai Junren's body's explosion. The battle isn't over yet. At this moment, an 8th-tier heavenly tribulation loose immortal exclaimed. It turned out that not only did Tai Junren's body collapse, but even his primordial spirit began to strangely swell in the stellar battlefield. Tai Junren's primordial spirit was distorted, and his screams became even more miserable. However, just as his primordial spirit was about to explode, a golden light seemed to come from the outer realm and enveloped Tai Junren's primordial spirit. It was also at this moment that Tai Junren's twisted expression eased, as if he was being nourished by an external force. Owner of all heaven's shop, you've gone too far." A cold voice filled with supreme majesty resounded in every corner of the heavenly court until it reached the stellar battlefield, shaking everyone's hearts. "Thank you for your help." Tai Junren seemed to know the identity of the person who had intervened, and he bowed to the void with gratitude and respect in his eyes. A moment later, golden light flashed in front of Tai Junren, and a graceful woman walked out. She wore a luxurious golden robe with silver patterns and wore a 9-song purple crown. She held a 2-meter-long scepter embedded with countless gems. At this moment, the woman was expressionless as she looked coldly at Chu Bei. An indescribable majesty seeped out of her and filled the heavenly court. "It's the heavenly Queen Mother." She saved Tai Junren. It's hard to imagine that Tai Junren, who became a grand heavenly immortal 1,000 years ago, would lose. Isn't this to be expected? After all, it's rumored that even Guanyin Bodhisattva lost to the owner of All Heaven's shop. The owner of All Heaven's shop, who disappeared for 100 years, brought his disciples to the heavenly court as soon as he returned. Even the heavenly Queen Mother has been alerted. The Jade Emperor is in seclusion. If the heavenly Queen Mother doesn't make a move, I'm afraid no one in the heavenly court can take down the owner of All Heaven's shop. That's true. He's too strong. He must be half a step into the grand, heavenly golden immortal realm. The golden immortals and grand, heavenly disbanded immortals were dumbfounded when they saw the heavenly Queen Mother appear on the battlefield. Pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li Jing, Neza, and the Dragon King of the East Sea were all in a daze. After Tai Junren's defeat, they finally saw the gap in strength between them and the owner of All Heaven's shop. It was simply an insurmountable gap. They didn't dare to imagine that the owner of All Heaven's shop, whom they wanted to capture personally 100 years ago, was now so powerful that he needed the heavenly Queen Mother's help. The heavenly Queen Mother was the Jade Emperor's Taoist companion. Her birth date could be traced back to the era when the sky was created. In the entire heavenly court, apart from the Jade Emperor and those old antiques who had been in seclusion for 10,000 years, the number of people who could fight her could be counted on one hand. Is this our boss? The disciples of All Heaven's shop clenched their fists at the sight of Tai Junren's defeat. Junior brother, you've been in the heavenly court before. Who do you think is stronger, Master or the heavenly Queen Mother? Sun Wukong held the Rui Jinggu Bang and glanced at the battlefield, then at Zhu Beiji. Senior brother, you've really stumped me with this question. Master has never told me what his cultivation level is. At this point, Zhu Beiji rubbed his nose and pointed at the battlefield with a worried look in his eyes. However, as far as I know, the heavenly Queen Mother had already become a perfected golden immortal when I was still in the heavenly court. A grand heavenly golden immortal? Hearing Zhu Beiji's words, Goku muttered uncertainly, Master should have entered this realm as well. At this moment, in the Starfield battlefield, Chu Bei was also sizing up the Queen Mother. Chu Bei's eyes flashed with surprise at the heavenly Queen Mother's aura. He'd thought that the heavenly Queen Mother was just a decoration, but in reality, her cultivation was above Guanyin Pusa's. She was already a grand heavenly golden immortal. In terms of shrouded sky realm, the heavenly Queen Mother was equivalent to those terrifying existences in the Forbidden Zone. She was a grand emperor. In this world, there were 9 tiers of grand heavenly golden immortal, and the heavenly Queen Mother had just reached the 2nd tier. Chapter 333. You destroyed my peach garden and killed the 5-star sovereign. You're stronger than I thought. I should have done it myself 100 years ago. The Queen Mother looked at Chu Bei, her hand holding her scepter, her voice calm. So it was you who ordered the destruction of the All Heaven's shop? Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, his voice indifferent. No, my original intention was to recruit them into the heavenly court as immortal officials, but they didn't agree. The Queen Mother pointed at Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji. They didn't agree, so you destroyed the All Heaven shop? Chu Bei asked. The All Heaven shop has grown too quickly. If it continues to grow, it will affect the status of the heavenly court. The Queen Mother spoke without hesitation. In that case, what if I want you to join the All-Heavens shop? Are you willing? Hearing the Queen Mother's words, Chu Bei's voice turned gloomy as his eyes narrowed. In the end, a chilling, murderous intent swept forth. His indifferent voice, without the slightest hint of emotion, came from the star-filled battlefield, echoing in every corner of the heavenly court. The heavenly soldiers and generals, including the disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, were all stunned by Chu Bei's words. The owner of the All-Heaven shop wanted the Queen Mother to join the All-Heaven shop. The Queen Mother was the most powerful person in the heavenly court, aside from the Jade Emperor. Are you joking with me? The Queen Mother looked coldly at Chu Bei, her expression somewhat unsightly. Since you don't agree, but I feel that your heavenly court is affecting the status of the All-Heaven shop, then should I do the same and destroy your heavenly court? Chu Bei let out a cold snort. His voice was like rolling thunder, and the sound waves directly exploded several stars in the star domain. The various great halls in the heavenly court also trembled at this moment, as if they were about to collapse. You're not qualified. Even if you've reached the 9th level, you're still not a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. You can't make up for the difference between you and me with your methods alone. The Queen Mother clenched her scepter. As her cold voice fell, the gem in the scepter released a brilliant blue light, instantly filling the star-filled battlefield as if strengthening it. Whoosh! Suddenly, a streak of immortal light shone, shaking up the stellar domain. The flying immortal staff was terrifying beyond compare. The Queen Mother took action, bringing with her immortal Tao power. Chu Bei's expression did not change. In an instant, the majestic blood energy in his body surged into the heavens. With a point of his finger, some divine light condensed into a long sword that soared through the sky and cut off the shocking, killing, immortal light. Boom! The two collided and quickly melted. Looking over, the Queen Mother of the West did not move at all. On the other hand, Chu Bei had to take a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. Queen Mother has the upper hand. As expected, the owner of the All-Heaven shop is still a disbanded celestial of the great all-embracing heaven, but he has already reached the peak of the 9th level. Otherwise, he wouldn't have only taken a few steps back in the fight with the Queen Mother. The owner of the All-Heaven shop is too careless. If I were him, I would definitely wait until I broke through to the perfected golden immortal realm before ascending to the heavens. With his strength, even if he could escape unscathed, it would be impossible for him to protect the others. Seeing the scene on the battlefield, the spectating golden immortals and disbanded celestial sighed. Neza, Li Jing, and the other heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals looked at each other with joy on their faces. Master doesn't seem to be a match for the Queen Mother. Zhu Beiji's expression was grave. Sun Wukong and the other disciples of the All-Heavens shop frowned deeply, their eyes filled with worry. Detected that the opponent is stronger than the host. The host is advised to borrow the power of Xiao He. The system's voice sounded at the right time. On the battlefield, Chu Bei ignored the discussions around him and looked at the Queen Mother calmly. Gradually, a ripple appeared in front of him, and an iron lump appeared out of thin air in the ripple. Then, it flashed and disappeared into Chu Bei's body. The next moment, a hazy fog of chaos wrapped around Chu Bei's body, making it difficult to see clearly. At this moment, the Queen Mother attacked again. It was still the flying immortal staff. Immortal light lingered for thousands of miles, and its momentum was terrifying. Chu Bei's gaze pierced through the sky as he met it. Bang! This time, the two attacks collided, and Chu Bei did not move at all. The owner of the All-Heaven shop has taken it. What's going on? His aura has changed. Now, he gives me the feeling that he's a different person. Looking at the killing immortal light and gaze that dissipated at the same time, the disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven were shocked. Just a moment ago, the two powerhouses had exchanged blows again. Although the momentum was not great, the energy contained within was extremely terrifying. If any one of them had taken it, they would have been seriously injured, if not killed. What happened to your body just now? I can't see through you. The Queen Mother frowned and looked at Chu Bei again. Chu Bei was silent and expressionless. You've piqued my interest. It seems that after suppressing you, I can't kill you immediately. I have to study you carefully." As Cold in the Forest finished speaking, the Queen Mother walked toward Chu Bei with her staff. Wherever she passed, immortal energy surged, white mist surged, and thousands of strands of immortal energy bloomed. "That's the immortal elephant of the great, all-embracing heaven," the disbanded immortals of the great, all-embracing heaven exclaimed. In the battlefield, the staff in the Queen Mother's hand bloomed with 9-colored light. Around her, divine beasts such as the phoenix, the kuenpeng, the black tortoise, the vermilion bird, the taotai, and the Qilin appeared. Looking closely, these were not illusions, but more like summoned divine beasts. Their auras were majestic. The Queen Mother did not move, but the divine beasts around her all used their strongest, treasured arts. As she stepped forward, the chaos above her head surged. Golden light surged in her body, and behind her, many stars swept over as if opening the sky. Rumble. The Queen Mother raised her staff, and the treasured arts of the divine beasts resonated with it, then merged together. Yin-yang tribulation. The Queen Mother's eyes focused. The treasured arts mixed together caused the stars to shine. Clang, clang. In the end, 2 beams of immortal light with metallic vibrations swept out. One was black, and the other was white. They were both formed by runes of the Great Tao. The colors of the immortal light were different. The two intersected and burst out with eternal light. The immortal light slashed toward Chu Bei, and the afterglow bloomed under the starry sky. The yin-yang tribulation appeared, and the starry sky exploded. The stars in this area almost exploded at the same time, and the terrifying light wave even affected the distant starry sky. Is this the Queen Mother's yin-yang tribulation? It's said that this is one of her Tao-proving immortal techniques. In the era when the sky was opened, the yin-yang tribulation was famous. It seems to have been created by goddess Nuwa. Looking at the 2 beams of black and white light wreaking havoc in the battlefield, the heavenly soldiers, including the disbanded immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, all turned pale. This yin-yang tribulation was too terrifying. The power fluctuation was simply about to destroy the world. Fortunately, the starry sky was far away from the heavenly court. Even so, their breathing seemed to have become a little suffocating. Starfall. However, Chu Bei, who was also in the battlefield of the starry sky, felt the yin-yang tribulation the most directly. His expression did not change at all. As the 2 indifferent syllables fell from his mouth, the boundless starry sky began to shake at the same time, as if even the more distant starry sky was about to collapse. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Countless golden dots of light appeared out of thin air. In an instant, they filled the entire starry sky and dyed it gold. These golden dots of light seemed to contain a terrifying and mysterious power. The stars, which had already been almost destroyed by the yin-yang tribulation, were not spared by the golden dots of light that covered an even wider area. They all exploded and fell. The golden dots of light were like waves and waterfalls. They rushed over rapidly, slapping toward the black and white immortal light. Boom! The starry sky collapsed, and chaos appeared. For a moment, the spectators in the heavenly court could only see the black and white and the larger golden dots. In this collision, everything was reduced to nothingness. This was a collision of the strongest. Whether it was Chu Bei, the Queen Mother, the Starfall, or the yin-yang tribulation, they all moved from the collapsed starry sky to an even larger starry sky. The disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven looked at each other in dismay. They were all flabbergasted, and only astonishment remained on their faces. The yin-yang tribulation, an art created by Her Majesty Nuwa and the Queen Mother's immortal art of proving her Tao, had been blocked by the owner of the All-Heaven Shop. Is this the true strength of the owner of the All-Heaven Shop? The immortal officials murmured in a daze as they looked at Chu Bei, who was as calm as ever on the battlefield. If any one of them had faced the yin-yang tribulation, they would have been obliterated on the spot. They would have died without a doubt. Who could block that fierce killing light? Rumble. In the larger battlefield of the starry sky, The golden dots of light and the black and white immortal light continued to collide. Break! As Chu Bei coldly uttered a single word, an imperceptible ripple sank into the golden dots of light. It was at this moment that the energy contained in the dots of light skyrocketed. The stalemate was broken in an instant. Crack! With a crisp crack, the black and white immortal light cracked, then exploded into millions of shards of light with a low rumble. Any star touched by these shards immediately exploded into nothingness. The golden dots of light didn't stop after shattering the yin-yang tribulation. Instead, they wove together into a giant golden hammer that fell from the sky and smashed toward the Queen Mother. Yin-yang shield. The Queen Mother's pupils constricted as she looked at the hammer above her head. She hadn't yet recovered from the shock of seeing the yin-yang tribulation destroyed, so she hastily brandished her scepter and unleashed another immortal art of proving her Tao. How is this possible? The Queen Mother's yin-yang tribulation was broken. The owner of the All-Heaven shop actually has the upper hand in this collision. Then what about the previous collision? In that case, the owner of the All-Heaven shop is already a perfected golden immortal. No matter the result of this battle, the owner of the All-Heaven shop has returned. The All-Heaven shop will rise to prominence. It won't be long before it becomes the fourth greatest power after Buddhism, the Heavenly Court, and the Chan sect. Pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li Jing, Dhritarashtra Mo Lisho, Neza, and the other perfected golden immortals all stared incredulously at the battlefield of the starry sky. Chapter 334. The corner of Tai Zhenren's mouth twitched as he watched the scene unfold on the battlefield. His previous opponent was a perfected golden immortal. Boss is mighty. All Heaven Shop's disciples cheered excitedly. They were originally ordinary humans from the lower realm who joined the All Heaven Shop for various reasons. Ever since the Heavenly Court targeted the All Heaven Shop, countless disciples had chosen to leave out of fear, but they had remained. They had thought about perishing along with the All Heaven Shop, but they had never thought that their boss, who had been away for 100 years, would return and lead them to the Heavenly Court. He had even gained the upper hand in the battle with the Queen Mother. Master's strength is truly bottomless. Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji looked at each other, their eyes filled with admiration. At this moment, a giant golden hammer came crashing down on the battlefield. The light it carried was like a galaxy with stars revolving within it. As the Queen Mother uttered the words yin-yang shield, the scepter in her hand turned into a stream of light, transforming into a blazing sun and a full moon above her head. The two spun and intertwined, forming a huge yin-yang tai chi diagram above the Queen Mother's head. Rumble. The giant hammer came crashing down, hitting the yin-yang shield with a dull thud. Sizzle. 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 After 3 seconds, the seemingly indestructible yin-yang shield began to crack, and it continued to crumble at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing that the yin-yang shield could not withstand the giant hammer's power, the Queen Mother glanced at Chu Bei with a solemn expression, as if she was re-evaluating Chu Bei. Then, she performed a supreme immortal technique once again. Her hands danced, and mysterious light gathered. Immortal Tao flowers bloomed, taking root in her hands, and ethereal sounds drifted out like heavenly music. Condense. The Queen Mother shouted, gathering all the immortal energy in her body. The moment the yin-yang shield crumbled, she slapped her hands upward. The immortal Tao flowers bloomed, and a 9-colored beam of light shot up into the sky, meeting the giant axe. Bang! Amidst the earth-shattering explosion, the dazzling light stole everyone's sight. The immortal Tao flowers withered, and the giant golden hammer shattered. The power contained in the two attacks offset each other and dissipated almost at the same time. The Queen Mother heaved a long sigh of relief as she looked at the giant hammer that had turned into nothingness. Although she had gathered all of her immortal energy in that instant, she had still managed to resolve the crisis. However, before Queen Mother of the West could rejoice, she felt a chill in her heart. I don't know why, but I see the silhouette of an old friend in you. Unfortunately, she's the same as you. She's also my enemy. She didn't have a good ending. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded in the Queen Mother's mind. Hearing this, the Queen Mother's body trembled. However, before she could gather her strength, she felt an invisible force fill her body. In an instant, his body felt as if it weighed 1,000,000,000 tons, and the immortal force within his body was suppressed, causing him to be unable to move. Amidst her panic, a figure appeared in her line of sight. To be precise, the figure was already in front of her, less than half a meter away. A palm swept over, and one could vaguely see the surface of the palm covered in golden light. It solidly slapped the Queen Mother's face. Puff. The Queen Mother's mouth was bleeding, and she staggered back a few steps. This crisp sound penetrated the star-filled battlefield and drifted to every corner of the heavenly court, shocking every immortal in the heavenly court. The sound of the slap lingered in their ears for a long time, and the scene that they had just seen was repeated in their minds. Whether it was the disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven, the Tai Golden Immortals, the Tai Disbanded Immortals, or even the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, they were all stunned at this moment. It was as if each of them had lost their souls, as if they had been struck by the 9 heavens' thunder tribulation. They had lost their souls and were as lifeless as wood. The owner of the all-heaven shop had slapped the Queen Mother of the West. In both the immortal world and the human world, dating back to the time when the heavens were created, who would dare to do so? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed what they had just seen. Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, and the disciples of the all-heaven shop were also stunned, but that was because they were too shocked and too excited. In the star-filled battlefield, the Queen Mother of the West steadied herself, looking a little dazed, slightly stunned. Her right hand instinctively touched the cheek that had been slapped, and she stared blankly at Chu Bei. I'm going to send you to the 18th level of hell and never reincarnate." After a few seconds, the Queen Mother of the West finally reacted. Feeling the burning sensation on her cheek, her face turned ashen. Then, she threw her head back and roared into the sky. Her voice was like thunder, and her killing intent filled the entire star field. Even the celestial officials in the heavenly court were affected. At this moment, the Queen Mother of the West seemed to have changed into a different person. The brocade robe on her body turned red, and her aura suddenly rose, as if she had used some kind of supreme secret technique to sublimate herself. The heavy force that Chu Bei had used to restrain her body was also forced out. Bang, bang, bang in an instant, the void with the Queen Mother of the West as the center began to collapse outward, and countless spatial rifts spread far and wide. On the battlefield, one after another, terrifying pitch-black holes appeared, and countless stars shattered, turning into billions of fragments that shot into the rifts. The terrifying immortal energy continued to spread, and the new star-filled battlefield vaguely showed signs of being unable to withstand it. Ever since I was born, I've never suffered such humiliation. The Queen Mother of the West no longer had the dignified demeanor of the heavenly court's matriarch. She was like a crazy woman, and her originally flawless face was distorted with malevolence. She roared at Chu Bei, her eyes bloodshot. "You're still lacking some experience." Chu Bei was still unmoved. Even though the immortal energy released by the Queen Mother of the West skyrocketed, there was no trace of fear on his face. It was as if this had no effect on him at all. "I'm going to torture you for eternity," the Queen Mother of the West roared, her eyes spitting fire. Immortal energy burned all over her body, and she held the scepter with both hands and swept it toward Chu Bei. It was as if the sky was going to explode. Chu Bei did not dodge, and he casually raised his hand to meet the attack. After borrowing Xiao Hei's power, the Queen Mother of the West, who was only a second-stage perfected golden immortal, was nothing in his eyes. Clang! There was a sharp metallic sound, and the stars exploded. The heavenly river flowed backward, and the star region exploded. Chu Bei reached out with his right hand and grabbed the scepter that was sweeping toward him with monstrous power. The Queen Mother of the West roared, and the red immortal light around her became even more dazzling. However, no matter how much immortal energy she released, She could not pull the scepter back from Chu Bei's hand. Damn it! Sensing the two mysterious powers that were beginning to spread from the scepter, the Queen Mother of the West did not hesitate and immediately let go. In the next moment, Chu Bei grabbed the scepter. However, in less than a few seconds, the scepter exploded. Falling star destruction. Chu Bei glanced at the Queen Mother of the West and reached out with both hands at the same time. The power of destruction wrapped in chaos surged like a raging river. Bam! The star region shook violently, and cracks spread all over. However, just as the star region was about to collapse under Chu Bei's power, a huge prison enveloped the star region. What are you doing? The Queen Mother of the West frowned as she looked at the star region that was really isolated by the other party. Her face was extremely gloomy, and there was a hint of uneasiness in her eyes. Previously, she could still feel the power of the stars in other star regions. However, ever since this huge prison appeared, the other star regions were completely isolated, and not a trace of aura could seep in. On the other hand, the power of the owner of the All-Heaven shop had increased by tens of millions of times after the prison appeared. Almost every corner of the star region was filled with the other party's power. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, the Queen Mother of the West felt a chill run down her spine, and then there was a strange roar behind her. Before the Queen Mother could change her position, chains of ripples appeared in the void behind her. In an instant, the chains wrapped around the Queen Mother's neck, abdomen, and limbs. Let go of me. At that moment, the Queen Mother of the West's body suddenly trembled. The strange power that she had forced out earlier spread throughout her body again, and it became even more terrifying. The Queen Mother of the West roared, her body glowing with immortal light as she did her best to resist Chu Bei's divine power. However, in the next moment, countless golden grains of sand appeared around her. Although the amount of sand was far less than the golden specks that filled the sky earlier, the energy contained within was hundreds or thousands of times more than before. Amidst a terrifying buzzing sound, the sand frantically drilled into the Queen Mother of the West's body. Soon, the Queen Mother of the West's skin was riddled with holes and covered in golden grains of sand. The grains of sand seemed to be able to devour a person's bodily functions as they madly absorbed the Queen Mother's essence blood. The Queen Mother of the West let out a shrill scream as if she was suffering some kind of painful torture. At that moment, the Queen Mother of the West's originally graceful body shriveled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. Fear finally appeared on her face. It was a fear that came from the bottom of her heart. It was the fear of death. Impossible. Even the Queen Mother of the West is no match for the owner of the All-Heaven shop? Did she lose? If this continues, the Queen Mother of the Heavenly Court won't. She's the mistress of the Heavenly Court. If something happens to her, when the Jade Emperor comes out of seclusion, the world will really change. Looking at the Queen Mother of the West struggling with a twisted expression in the star-filled battlefield, the disbanded immortals of the great all-embracing heaven and the Heavenly Court's immortal officials were shocked to the extreme. How could this be? Tai Zhenren was in a daze. Previously, he had been tortured by the two forces, and it was a fate worse than death. Now, the Queen Mother of the West, a disbanded golden immortal, was experiencing the same thing as him. Master, the owner defeated the Queen Mother of the West. Sun Wujie pointed at the star-filled battlefield and looked at Sun Wukong excitedly. Sun Wukong nodded slightly with a smile. The All-Heaven shop will go even further in the future. Fellow immortal, let's stop here. Suddenly, a calm voice sounded. Even with the obstruction of the prison, it still spread throughout the star field and every corner of the Heavenly Court. This voice filled the air as if the source of the voice was everywhere. The next moment, a ripple swept through the prison outside the star-filled battlefield. In an instant, the prison shattered and turned into a rain of light that dissipated into nothingness. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.